Well, hello everyone. My name is Dave Casuto, instructor for Learnit, and welcome to our Advanced InDesign class. Now, perhaps some of you are following up on my Intro to InDesign class and are hungry for more InDesign fun. Well, welcome back. And if you haven't checked it out, please give it a go, as there are some pretty great fundamentals covered in that class. Now, what do we cover in this class? Being a little more advanced, we cover items like data merging, how to create a table of contents. We go over creating interactive forms. We also get a little deeper into nested styles, including character, paragraph, and object styles. We then do a nice deep dive into some advanced master page techniques. Then we get a little bit more creative with some of my favorite vector and shape manipulation tools, and actually so much more than that. Now, this course is designed to be an interactive, hands-on course. So occasionally you'll hear me say things like, pause the video and practice on your own. So make sure you download the class files from the link below to do so. This will ensure you get the most out of the course and learn the program in a more experiential, hands-on manner. I'm looking forward to teaching you all the cool things that InDesign has to offer at this very advanced level, so stay tuned and get ready to learn. If you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe. If you want to earn certificates and digital badges, please become a member of our Patreon. The link is in our video description. If you have any questions you want answered by one of our instructors, please join our off-site community. The link is in the description as well. And as I mentioned, this course does have exercise files, and you'll find them in the video description below. Let's begin our discussion on InDesign talking about the CC Libraries panel. Now, I think this is very important to talk about because many of you have probably ignored it, whether you're in Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign or any of the other Adobe programs. And how do I know this? Because I am also guilty of this. I've been looking at it for years and years and years and have decided I don't need this, right? Yeah, I kind of understand what it is, but I have other ways to do the things that it's going to do. And you know what? I don't really need to waste my time with that. But guess what? That's all going to change for you because it's changed for me also. So what is the CC Library? CC Library allows you to organize all of your content, meaning content could be copy, could be images, could be vector graphics, could be styles, could be colors, could be shapes themselves, so many different things. And you might want to reuse those over and over again. You might want to share those with other people that you're collaborating with. You also might want to share them with yourself within other documents and other programs. So it's pretty extraordinary. So let's just first talk about how we can get to our CC library. You'll notice I actually have my CC library open right here. Some of you may not, so let's go ahead and just close that out. And let's see how we can bring this up. Very simply, we go up to our window menu, go over here to CC Libraries, and there it is. Now, you'll notice I currently have two libraries already created, my Images library and my InDesign Templates library. So let's go ahead and open up my Images library, and you'll see, oh, great, there are some things already in here. Oh, look at that. That's already in here. That's wonderful. That's great. So guess what I could do? I could reuse these over and over again between my documents. Now, it's very important to understand that I need to be logged in to my Creative Cloud account in order to be able to see these on this document, but also other documents. Okay, so once I'm logged in, I'll be able to see all this. In a little bit, we're going to be talking about the Adobe Stock website, and you're going to see how that's also going to be linking up to our Adobe account and how everything all talks to each other, right? Using the cloud technology for our benefit. So let's go ahead and work with this image. I want to work with this image over and over and over again. I want to use this. I want to see it in other places. I also want to share it with other people. So how do I do that? I'm just going to simply click on it, and you'll see here is my Images library. I open that up, and you can see here is my graphics component here. And then I'm just going to simply click and drag that in there, wait for my little plus sign, and then wait about maybe 3 seconds or so, maybe 5 seconds. And there it is. Wonderful. And you'll notice how it comes in as artwork, whatever, it just calls it something. If you right click on it, notice I'll have the option to rename it, but also note that you can delete it. You can also move it to other libraries if you want to, duplicate it, all kinds of great things here. You can also create new groups around it. You can be as organized as you need to be, okay? And again, understand the benefit of this, because guess what? If I want to use this in another document, I absolutely can do that. We're going to do that in just a minute. One thing you'll notice is that it brought in a certain version of this image, meaning it didn't bring in the entire image. It only brought in the cropped out version. So if I double click on this now, you'll notice how I get this entire kind of image content, right? Not the actual frame as I want to just single click, but if I double click, I get the entire content. And now let's say I want all of the image as opposed to this cropped image. Let's now go ahead and just drag that in again. Okay, I'll wait my 5 to 55 seconds and wait for it. It's coming in, it's working hard. Okay, there it is, great. And you can see also, you know, it has some of the original stuff on there. That's great. All right, so I'll just go ahead and just rename that. All right, I'll call that Bob, and that is gonna be original. Okay, fantastic, that's great. So let's now see that in action. I'm going to create a new document, and I'm just gonna bring in one of these images. So I'll just bring in artwork 3, and then I'm just gonna drag that, and then wow, look at that, amazing. I can use this on a completely different document, and you'll be able to see I have access to that, no problem. Okay, and again, this could be the same thing if you're working in Photoshop, Illustrator, etc. All right, let's just try a different example. Let's now see what we can do about creating a new library and potentially working with copy, right? Let's say there's some text you want to use over and over and over again. How could we do that? All right, so let's just say here is this last paragraph. We're using this all the time. So what I want to do is I want to create a new library. So I'm going to click on Create New Library. I'm going to say Copy. That's wonderful. And you'll see now I have 3 libraries. All right, and I'm going to show you something kind of tricky, because what I want to do is I want to bring in this little bit here. Okay, now I can't necessarily drag this over. Even if I try to like hold down the control key, click and drag, it kind of gives me a little bit of a message that's going to do it, but typically it's not going to do it, right? It kind of sends you some sort of mixed messages that it's going to do it. What you want to do is open up the actual library itself, highlight your content, and then you're going to come way down here to this little plus sign, that guy, all right? And then you'll see it's aware that I've selected type, and I'm able to now either choose parts of the type, right? Just the text itself, or the whole paragraph style, or I can just go ahead and add all, depending on what you are trying to do, right? Totally up to you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add all. I click on that, and now, bam, look at that. There it is, comes in, but guess what? It's also brought in my paragraph styles too, and my color, which is so cool. Just in one selection, it's brought in several different things that I can use over and over and over again. So therefore, if I love this paragraph style, I can use this paragraph style elsewhere. And I did it with just one drag, and it brought in 3 different things here, because let's say the color was something I really love. I can reuse this color if I want to as well. So now let's just see it in action. I'll come back here. Let me just drag Bob over here. And now I'm just going to drag my text in here. And that's great. Fantastic. That's amazing, right? So there it is. Love that. And I don't have to worry about that anymore, because that's text that I use all the time. And guess what? I can just go back to my Creative Cloud libraries and then continue to use it. Now, if you're like me, you're probably thinking, well, what if I want to change this type, right? Because I have this copy all over the place, right? And it's like, oh, wait a second, we just changed our product name. We want to change the verbiage across the board. Guess what? Because I'm working with this link up to my CC libraries, I can just change the original text, and then this will also get changed, okay? It's pretty amazing. So let's now go ahead and just bring a new page in. I'm just gonna right click, insert page, and I'll just bring in 3 more pages. It's great. And now let me bring in this content. So you can see here, and I just drag that out. Okay, if I zoom in, I can see, all right, there it is. Wonderful. Okay, so you might have this in 2 places. And again, this also might be in another document as well. But let's just see how this works, right? Same exact copy. Let me now right click back on this text box here, and I'm going to say edit. And you're going to see what's going to happen. I'm going to open up to a whole new tab here of like all this gobbledygook, which is just basically the editing window for this copy. And I'm just going to make some changes to this. I'm just going to say, hey, we are so proud of this product. And still, okay, as you know, we consider, I'll just say, all of our health priceless. Okay, fantastic. And let me go ahead and close this. It's going to ask me to save it. I'm going to say yes. Now we come back here, and guess what? It is now added this part here, and it's added this part here. And let's go ahead and go to down below. And did it do here too? Yes, it did. Look at that. Amazing. Everything I wanted to do. And again, this could be on another document, anywhere else. This is always linked up to it. And if you are also working with other documents, it's going to be the same thing, meaning in other programs too. Okay, so it's pretty extraordinary. Another feature that you may see is the ability to bring in your styles into your Creative Cloud libraries. Okay, so how do you do that? If you open up to your Styles panel, you will notice that when I select one of my styles, you'll see that hiding right over there, this little guy right there, is going to allow me to do, guess what? Move your mouse over, it's going to tell you, add selected style to my current CC library. Okay, so what I could do is now just say create new library, and I'll just call this paragraph styles. Okay, click on create. All right, and then I click on this and wait for it. Amazing, there it is. Love that. Let's do another one. Awesome, there it is. Okay. So what this is going to allow me to do is share between InDesign documents, right? It's really just such a cool thing. All right, so you want to practice this according to whatever your needs are, working with images, working with styles, right? Working with copy, certainly, and play around. So pause it. You can practice on our annual report file here if you like, and maybe practice on your own. All right, so again, pause the video, practice it, see how it works out for you. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Adobe Stock. And Adobe Stock is pretty great because it's going to allow us to work with all of these free, mostly free, or at least the ones that we're going to be talking about, assets for you to work with. And you're going to see how it's going to work nicely with your Creative Cloud library. All right, so stay tuned, practice up, have fun, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Let's now discuss Adobe Stock. Now, what is Adobe Stock and how can it help us? So this is essentially a portal, a database, basically a place where you can go and you can get assets. As a result of you paying your monthly subscription, Adobe is generous to give you just literally access to millions and millions of different types of assets, whether it could be images, whether it's going to be bitmap images or vector, videos, different templates, right? All kinds of great things and all high quality. And for the most part, all copyright free, right? Because you are paying for that. But now let's explore what we're looking at here. First of all, in the upper right, you will see my name telling me that I'm in fact logged in as me. So therefore it's connecting to my Creative Cloud account, right? That makes sense. But let's verify that by going over to here to my libraries. And I will see when I click on that, oh, look at that. All of the libraries that I just created in my last video now show up here. Pretty cool. And we're going to see how that's going to play out once I finally save my images or whatever assets I want, and I want them to show up inside of InDesign. Okay, pretty cool. Now, let's look over here on the left-hand side where I have all of these filters. And very importantly, I also see an option for what types of assets I want. And also here's my option for searching. All right, so let's first choose free. Okay, you can see all these different asset types you can bring in, but we're going to choose free, and this will give us access to a lot of these other things if you want to, but for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to choose free. And I'm going to just type out, let's just say, business. All right, I click on that. Okay, cool. Lots of great stuff here. Okay, wonderful. It's amazing. Notice when you move your mouse over it, it should say free, free, free. Okay, that's what I like. That's amazing. Now I'm going to go over here to my filters and decide, well, what kind of stock blah do I want? Do I want images? Do I want some videos? Do I want all these things here? And of course, again, they're going to be free. So what asset types do I want? Do I want just images? Do I want videos? Do I want, okay, or all things? So you'll see, I click on that and it's going to refresh. And if I scroll down, I'll be able to see a lot of different types. You can see there's even some video that's available here for me. Okay, great. I just want images, so it'll refresh with just images. Love that. Now it's asking me, well, now that you chose images, what's the subcategory you want? So I can say, well, I only want photos. And now it's only going to be photos as opposed to what? Vectors. So let me just deselect photos. Oh, that's pretty cool. So these are going to be vectors and I'll be able to download these and I'll be able to actually manipulate them. That is amazing. Look at that. I can just take all these and then do whatever I want. I mean, pretty awesome. Let me go back to photos, turn off vectors. Then you'll see there's going to be some other options you might want to explore, like your orientation. What? Oh, that's pretty cool. So if I'm only working with square images, click on that. Oh, that is so cool. Of course, I can make them square myself because we're all skilled in InDesign at this point. But I'm going to now bring this over to vertical and turn that off. And let's just see what other options I have there. Okay, cool. Just good to know that they're kind of doing the work for us. All right, I'm just going to go back to all. And you'll see that there's some other really kind of neat options here, like depth of field. If you want to have some blur in the background, so she's got lots of nice depth of field. They kind of have a little bit as well, right? You can see all these just adds a little more focus onto the foreground. You'll see maybe there's some other things here in terms of vivid color. Do you want it to have people, etc.? All right, you can even filter it out by color. It goes on and on and on. All right, now how do we get these? All right, so let's just take this. This is going to be like the cover of our newsletter. So if you'll notice that when you move your mouse over the image, you're going to get this little heart here, save to library, and this is also find similar. You'll also notice this is telling me it's free, and you'll also notice this says license. All right, first thing we're going to do is just simply click on the heart, right? Seems like a nice thing to do. I click on that, and then you'll see over here in the upper right, it's saying saving to default library, which is images. But when I click on manage, you'll notice I can override that and have that go someplace else if I want to, right? So if you have like different kinds of images, maybe you've got like medical versus business, versus tech, something like that, you may want to have that more specific to where you want it to go. And of course, these libraries would have been created back in InDesign, okay? So, and you can create one here if you like as well. All right, so great, I have that there. Now, I'm going to warn you, there's going to be a little bit of a problem there because I did not license this image. Oops, okay. So let's now try for something else. Okay, so I'm gonna go get this one, but this time I'm gonna choose license. I click on that and you can see it starts to refresh. Okay, great, it's downloading it. Okay, love that, it's talking to the database. And now, guess what? I'm now all set to download this. I can rename this if I want to. I'm just gonna go ahead and click on save. All right, fantastic, that's great. Process is gonna be the same regardless of whatever you're working with. If you're working with vector images, it's going to ask you, do you want to download it in a certain file format? Do you just want the JPEG, or do you want to be able to manipulate it as a vector, right? Totally up to you. Okay, now that we've explored this and we've exploited it, let's now go ahead and check out what we've got. So I'm going to come back here and let me get rid of these guys. This is from before. And let's just start really from where you'd be starting, which is your CC libraries here. And there is the library that I just saved to. And guess what? I was just in Adobe Stock saving those images. And now I come over to here, open up graphics, and look at that. There she is, and there they are. Okay, so let's just see how great this is. Nice, beautiful image. Click and drag. Okay, that's great. Love that. No problems at all. Okay, now let's try this one. And you'll see, oh, a great image, but oh, why is there a watermark on this? Man, not okay. I don't want that at all, right? That looks just like I stole it. So what we need to do, it's a very, very simple solution, is you'll see right over here is this little dude right there to be able to license it. Remember how I clicked on license for this one? You click on license for this one, which is just clicking on that, and then you wait. maybe about 10 seconds or so. It's essentially just talking to the Adobe people and saying, hey, is this guy cool? All right, yeah, this is free, right? Okay, everything's cool. Or did he pay for it? All right, everything's good. And now wait for it to refresh. And it takes about like maybe 10, 20 seconds. And then the watermark should disappear. Amazing. So now I own this, okay? Tons of high quality stuff. Got it from Adobe Stock. And then I brought it into my CC libraries, okay? So hopefully now you are convinced about how awesome the CC libraries can be. And we're going to start working with these all throughout this class. You'll see kind of different examples of when this can be done. And again, it's about collaboration, it's about sharing, and it's about efficiency for you ultimately. Okay, and in this way, it's like, wow, I want to get something super creative and super quality so I can go to the Adobe Stock website and get all my needs taken care of. All right, so pause the video, practice this, make sure you're logged in, go over to Adobe Stock and get some good quality stuff and put it to use. Okay, pause the video, have fun, experiment, and we'll see you in the next lesson. In this next lesson, we're going to be working with the annual strategy DC InDesign document. So you can go ahead and open that up to follow along if you like. And we're going to be discussing layers and layer management and maybe some more advanced tools than maybe some of you have seen. And this is a very good document because it's nicely organized. And we're going to learn how we can be organized in the same way, but then maybe even push it to the next level. So let's go ahead. I'm going to dock all my panels here so I can see my layers panel just sitting right here. And again, if you can't find it, just go over here to Window and open up to Layers. And you will see that this particular document, if I show it now in my preview mode, has all of these text boxes here and some other graphics and all that stuff here. And I can see how they're nicely labeled and nicely color-coded accordingly. So if I open up to text right here, oh, that's great. You can see here is, oh, that's that text right there. How do I verify that? Cool, fantastic. What's this one? Oh, that's also text. So notice how they're all organized, not only by this individual layer, but also how they're organized by color. Now, when's that going to come into play? If I click on this right now, you'll notice how my bounding box is, guess what color? It is this blue color, right? You can see, all right, great. That is telling me that that is now selected. Okay, fantastic. Now, what about all these other elements here? I go over to there. Wow, there's a lot of stuff there. So if I just click on that, you see some of these things are going to disappear. And when I click on them specifically, you'll notice I'm going to get a nice little bounding box around it, which is that color right there. Okay, so just understand that many times you can color code these things. All right, now we can also get rid of our background. You can see, great, fantastic. Now, one thing that kind of confuses people with layers, if you haven't worked with layers before, is the actual selection part of things. Like, so for example, when I click on this, notice how I clicked on December 2022. It's not showing that it's selected here. This is still selected. The shape is still selected here. What I want you to notice is that this little guy way over here is indicating to me that this element or something on that layer is actually selected. So when I open it up, it tells me, okay, this is actually selected right there. So anytime you really want to like select an object, actually go right for the little box there in order to actually get it selected. Okay, that can kind of confuse people a little bit. All right, so okay, great. So let's go over to another page. And you'll see that each individual page, the layers may change depending on what you have. Even though I may not have any text there, the layers are going to change. However, whatever is going to be within there is also going to change. All right, so you just have to understand that like it is contingent upon whatever page you are looking at or whatever kind of spread you're looking at. So you might want to just kind of explore that just to understand kind of how your document is created. Okay, so notice I'll go here, right, and notice how that just changed. I still have text open. Let's go to here. Notice how that just changed. All right, so you'll definitely want to explore that for your document in case you've inherited it from somebody else. All right, so definitely some good things to know about when you're working with layer management. All right, now, of course, you can lock some of your layers. Like, for example, I'll go back to this page here and I might want to lock my background layer. I can click on that. And now I can't accidentally click on that. See, I'm clicking. I can't do that. But when I unlock it, then I can click on it and drag it if I wanted to. But sometimes it's a good idea to lock things so you don't accidentally mess with them. All right, so let's now go a little bit more advanced with our layers, okay? Because we've noticed that this particular layer has a color, and so do the rest of these, and they're all named accordingly. So let's go to another page here. And let's just say here I have this set of graphs right there. Okay, that's great. And I want this entire thing, right? You can see, actually go to my map here. Okay, you'll see, let's say I want that on its own layer altogether. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. Very simple, create new layer. And that's going to come over to here. And I'm just going to double click on that. I'm just going to call this, I'll call this graphs and maps. And it's going to ask me not only the name, but it's also going to ask me the color, right? So what color do you want that to be? So earlier we discussed all of these color options, because that way when I click on it, I want it to like flash out as a frame with that particular color. So let's make this maybe magenta. That's going to be good because maybe it'll stand out from the background. That's great. Then we have a whole bunch of other options here. What do you want to do with this particular layer? Right? Do you want to show the layer? Sure. Same thing as my little eyeball there. When you're working with guides, do you want to show the guides on that layer? Maybe you want that, maybe you don't. Okay. Do you want to lock that layer? Again, same options as the second column there. Okay. Do you want to lock the guides on that particular layer? Because sometimes you accidentally click on those and move them. Maybe you want to print this layer, maybe you don't. Okay. And sometimes you're going to say, listen, I just have that there as the background because I'm kind of using an old version of it, but I don't want to print it when the time comes. So you can easily just turn that off. So therefore it's not going to get printed. Okay, so kind of cool. And then finally, suppress text wrap when the layer is hidden. Okay, so it's a lot of words there, but basically if you're working with text wrap, if the layer is hidden, you want it to basically not kind of conform to whatever that text wrapping is because it's no longer there. So if in case it's not doing what you want to do, you can always come back here and deal with that. So I click OK. And now you'll notice that this is actually empty. I try to click on that and see nothing happens. So what I want to do is just move this in there. So just to verify, is that what I'm looking at? Okay, great. And just simply click and drag and then move that inside there. And now this is now inside here. And when I click on it, now notice my little bounding box is that pretty magenta color and it's separated out from there. Okay, so let's just try, what's this one? Oh, okay. That actually makes more sense because that belongs inside the graphs and maps. All right, cool. Now I'm starting to get nicely organized with my content. All right, so it's going to be a really nice thing for your layer management to have your individual layers. Some of you may have seen that when you create a blank new document, it only comes in as one layer, even though you've got 50 zillion things. Creating all of these individual layers, right? That in addition to that layer one, it's going to help you be organized, right? Not only with yourself, but also the people you are working with. Okay, so this is going to be very, very important. Okay, now in a little bit, we're going to be discussing more about master pages, right? So assume that at this point, you'll have some experience with master pages, but you'll understand that if I go into a master page, right, you can see here's my pages, you'll see that my layers panel, right, will also shift accordingly. So let me just go over here to my first one here, and you'll notice how everything changes, right? And some of these things have nothing inside of them, okay? But you do have the option to work with layers inside of here as well, and they will play nicely with all the layers that you have inside of your main document just as well. So that said, please pause the video, get familiar with these layers, take a look at some of the documents that you're working on, and really get organized with your content. It's really a very good tool and approach and strategy to make sure that you are organized with your content, because when working with other people, it's going to be important for everybody to understand kind of what's what, where things are, where they're called, all that good stuff. And color coding can certainly help with that as well. All right, so what I want you to do is just pause the video, take a look at this document, take a look at any of your files, and really get familiar with all the things you can do with layers. And we'll see you in the next video. Welcome back, and let's continue on with this annual strategy DC file. And we're going to discuss master pages on potentially a little more advanced level than where you're currently at. All right, so if you haven't worked with master pages before, you're going to see them inside of the Pages panel. And if you don't have your Pages panel up already, you can go over here to Window and then open up to Pages. Now, my Pages panel is set up for my masters to be up on top, and then I can see all of my pages down here. And then just a little review, you're going to see how I have all of my master names up on top, A, B, C, D, which is going to be my prefix. And then that prefix will then show here and here. And you'll see there's also going to be another one here. So all just depending on what you are applying for each of these. All right, so this one has the A master applied to it. So if I go over here and just double click over here, and you'll see, okay, it's not a whole lot going on here, and we're going to fix all that, but that has A on it. Let's go over here and see what B has. All right, this has a little line there. Oh, that's interesting. What does C have? All right, not too much, maybe a different size. Oh, there's something there for D. Oh, okay, well, let's just see what's going on. If I go over here to B, oh, there's that line. Ah, okay, why is that happening? It's happening because of the master. Okay, so we're going to be able to now start manipulating this a little bit more, because when I take a look at this, I see that I have some kind of repeating elements right here. So we're going to play around with making it so we don't have to go to each individual page every time to manipulate this, because sometimes it's going to be a different year, sometimes it's going to be a different month. I only want to have to change that in one place. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the one that I like, which is going to be, I don't know, let's just say this one. I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to go over to here, and I'm just going to delete this one. Don't need it. Double click on that, select it, delete it. Okay, and do the same for here. Okay, wonderful. Now my goal is to have that on every single one of these pages that has the A on it. Really simple to do. I'm just going to double click back in my A master, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say edit and then paste in place, and you'll see where that ends up. It's going to be right where I copied it from. Pretty cool. All right, and then there's that. Now what I'm going to do is hold down my Alt or Option key and click and drag while holding down the Shift key, and now I'm going to use my arrow keys while holding down the Shift key, and that's going to be nicely aligned accordingly. All right, so of course you'll want to get that however you want to do it. All right, now you will see also that this is inside of the right layer. Earlier we talked about layers, so you kind of always want to sort of check out your layers to make sure that everything is where they need to be. Okay, and I can verify again because this is blue, that's blue, it's inside of text, there's the name of it there. Okay, that's great. Now I want this to be on every single one of these pages. Did I just accomplish that? Well, let's go ahead and check it out. So if I go back to my page 1, which has the A master on it, and notice it's the right spread, you will see, okay, cool, there it is. Can I click on that? Nope. Nope. Why? Because it's in the master, right? Okay, no problem. Go over to here. Look at that. It's there. It's there. Every time I have an A master applied, it then takes in whatever that was up there. All right, so guess what? I only had to do it in one place, and then therefore it's stuck to that. All right, so maybe this is some review for some of you, but now let's go back to here and let's make some changes where this is going to be actually January 2022. Okay, great. Now I made one change here. Wonderful. I come back over here to, oh, look at that. Change it there. Change it here. All right. Fantastic. That's great, isn't it? So the power of working with our masters, you'll see at a very basic level. All right. Now let's go to the next level and let's just bring in a nice literal, maybe a footer or something like that, or header, something like that for each of these individual sections. So in order to do that, we need to understand, first of all, how we can bring in, let's say, a page number, but also how we bring in section titles. So if I go over to here to 2 and 3, you'll notice how I do not have any page numbers, right? No page numbers for these. So let's go ahead and just do a quick review on how that's done, and I'm going to show you how you can bring in section titles just the same. All right, so let's first of all go back to our B master, because that's where I want to have page numbers. All right, that's great. And then very simply, it's going to bring in a text box, click and drag that out. And now I go over here to type, insert special character, and then I go over here to markers, and then guess what? There is current page number. Later on, we're going to talk about section marker. Ooh, that's kind of cool. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and just say current page number, and then I'm going to say page, and then maybe some of you want to kind of be a little more creative about it. Maybe you're going to put a little box around it. You're going to do all kinds of different things. Maybe you're going to do, I don't know, let's just be kind of fun with it. Let's go over to there. I'll make that kind of off the page a little bit. And then I'm just going to bring in some color for the text box itself. Let's just do black, and then make my type white. And I'm going to right align that and right click on that. Go over here to my text frame options to give it a little bit of breathing room. You will see here is my inset spacing. And you can see it's going to go a little bit just on top. And then I click on this. It's going to do for all of them. I click OK. You can make a little more room because it got a little more too much padding. And finally, let's do one last thing. Go back here and notice the keyboard shortcut, by the way, is Control or Command B. And I'm going to make this a line in the center. And I actually want to have this a little more space on the right-hand side, so I can just uncheck that, and that's going to bring this over a little bit. Okay, going a little bit faster for this part here since we are advanced, so if you need to review this, what I'm doing, please go ahead and do that if you need to. All right, now, you will notice that it does say page B. All right, what does that mean? That's just basically referring to the placeholder. Now, if your text box kind of moves around like that, once you kind of hit the edges, you can always play around with the baseline. So if I go back into here and I'm going to go over to my text options, I'm just going to increase the baseline a little bit, and that gives you a little more text control if it's not doing what you want it to do. All right, so now that looks pretty good, and let's just see what in fact it's going to do. All right, notice again it says page B. That's referring to my master prefix. So let's just see now, whatever has the B master applied to it will now have, that's pretty neat. I like that. Let me hit the W key so I can really see what that's going to look like. Pretty cool. Now let's go over and go do it to the other side. So very simply, just double click here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit by just doing my Alt and then use my mouse wheel and select both of these, and then hold down the Alt or Option key, and then click and drag while holding down, guess what? The Shift key. All right, let's bring that over there. And the other thing I'm going to do now is just simply left align this. And if you need to, I strongly recommend you do, is you play around with the text frame options and go over, play around with your inset. So instead of the right being 3, we're going to make this on the left, make that 12, okay? So this case before, the right was 12, now this is going to be 3, and then the left is now going to be 12. I click OK, and now that's more or less set up. Let's bring that a little bit over to the edge. Fantastic, good to go. Now, let's go back to our document. Everything that has B on it will now have all of our page numbers there, just like that. And on that side as well. All right, so if I do Shift W, let's see it in real time. Wow, I love that. And you can see it's adding on the page numbers accordingly. All right, so that is just one thing we can do. But now let's add on a section title. So a section title. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and make a separate lesson on using section titles. All right, so this is going to be the end of the first part of what we do with our masters. And then we're going to pause the video and then have you do another lesson on number one, creating sections, but then also bringing in section titles into your master. Okay, now hopefully at this point you're a little more comfortable with masters, and you've practiced everything that we've done so far with just understanding how you can have repeating elements on every page and how the benefits are. And also we've also done page numbers, and we did a little bit of formatting on our page numbers as well. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper, and that's working with sections. All right, so on this particular document, some of you may have noticed that there's a little arrow right here. There's another little arrow right there. That is InDesign's whisper to tell us that there are actual sections for each of these. Notice when I click on that little triangle, notice how all of that now gets highlighted. These do not. This is a section separate from that section, etc. And you'll notice how the page numbers start over again, okay? Because that's just how we want our sections to start. That's actually making them sort of independent of each other, but yet still be in the same document. So it's kind of neat. So if I go over to here, I click on this, and then I right-click on it, you're going to see here is this option for numbering and section options. I click on that. You can see here, okay, start page numbering at blah, blah, blah. And you can see there's this other section here, page numbering section prefix if you want to. So that's going to allow you to say, hey, this is going to be this section, and then it's always going to have a prefix of whatever you type in, right, to show that, okay, for your page numbering if you want to, right? And then here, you'll see here is your style. So maybe some of you might want to have different style of pagination. You can absolutely do that as you're creating this, right? And then finally, you have your section marker. And that's what we're going to focus on here is the section marker. Essentially, that's going to be the label of what we're going to call this. Okay, so let me just, first of all, I'll just say quarter one forecast. All right, that's what we're doing here. Okay, great. That's amazing. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do for right now. Let me just copy that because I'm going to do the same thing for the next one. Now, you may get this little pop-up here because we have page numbers that are duplicating themselves. We're just saying, hey, I'm cool with this. Don't worry about it. Because as I showed you, we have more than one page 2 or more than one page 3 all throughout. It's okay. Click OK, and you're good. All right, now let's do another one for this section here. Just simply click on that and then right click, and then here it is, numbering and section options, and keep it at that. That's fine. And then this one is going to just be a paste, and this is going to be quarter 2. Click OK. Again, error message or whatever, just a little warning. Click OK. And now we're good to go. But what are we good to go to do? We're good to go to put in a section marker. Earlier in the last lesson, I showed you where to find all that. And that's what we're going to do in this next section. We're going to bring in a section marker that every time it's on that particular master, it's going to show that particular section's title on there automatically. Just like how it automatically knew what page we were on, it's going to do the same thing to know automatically what section we're on. Wow, that's pretty cool. So let's go back over here to our B. And I only want to have it over here on the left spread. So just kind of keep things nice and clean. I don't need too many repeating things. And you're busy, so let's go ahead and do that. Very simply, I want to have a text box there. Have that all set up, ready to go. And let me bring in my section marker there. So I go over here to Type, Insert Special Character, Markers, and guess what? Section marker that comes in, and it says section. I'm going to right align that. All right, so this is all pretty much good to go, and it just says section. Not very exciting. So let's just see what in fact it's going to do. Notice it's over here on the left side of the spread. I'm going to go over here on the left side over here. And then what? Look what it just did. Page 2, and it just brought in the section name. Keep scrolling down. Same deal. Okay, cool. Keep scrolling down. Nice, nice. But then guess what? When I get over to another section altogether, I'm not going to see that anymore. Okay, you can see how cool that is. Now, let's go back over to C, which I don't have any page numbers for, but I just want you to see what the section is going to look like and how we do that once again. So what I may do, just to keep things nice and easy, is I'm just going to copy that, go back over to here, and I'm going to say edit, paste in place, and the page numbers, excuse me, the page size is a little bit smaller, so I might not get exactly the same in place part. So I'll just bring that up here and good to go. All right, of course you'll want to see how they all kind of align with each other, and maybe you're creating guides for this. Great, now let's see what C looks like. So I go over to here, and then C, I realize, bam, there it is. Amazing. Cool, Q2 forecasts. Great, if I go to D, it doesn't have that there. So you want to repeat this over and over again. Okay, so sections are really great just to organize your content, right? Separate them out. But then you go to the next level and you bring them into a master page, and then boom, you are so slick with all of your content. So this could be for magazines, it could be for proposals, annual reports, for books, so many things. You're just basically saying, hey, this is the name of this chapter. I want it separated out. I don't want to just type in the words every time. It's going to cling and link up to the actual section name inside of the Pages panel. All right, so pause the video, practice that, and we'll come back and see in the next lesson. Our next discussion on master pages is going to be around creating placeholders. Placeholders. Because many times you're going to have repeating elements and you don't know what's going to be within that section. It could be changing the words, could be changing the images, right? You might want to just have a little more control over the sort of static nature of masters. So you want to be able to have just like placeholders. So that way, when you're working with other people, you can just say, hey, listen, this is going to go here for this group. This is going to go here for another group. Okay, but it's just going to be different for each group, but it's going to make it easier for people to then place in their own content. Okay. Now masters are really good for having all these repeating elements, but we're going to be able to customize it. So if we just zoom out a little bit, you'll see that this page and this page, and this page, right? And this all have kind of repeating elements, and there's already sort of text in there. And they're all kind of in the same place. Now, I want to create my master to be able to just kind of fix that so I don't have to worry about doing all these things kind of piecemeal. So we're going to sort of redo how this one is set up. All right, so I'm going to go into page 1, and making sure that my background is unlocked, I'm going to just kind of steal this. I'm just going to just do Control or Command X and go over to here to my right part of my spread. And I'm just going to say paste in place. Great. Love that. And then I'll go over to here to page 2. And I'm going to select that. Again, make sure my background is not locked. Cut that out. Go back over to here. And then just notice what the keyboard shortcut is for paste in place. Control-Alt-Shift-V, right? It's a lot easier than you might think it is. And of course, replacing Control with Command on the Mac, you can see, bam, and that's going to go into the right place. All right. Now, on these guys here, right? These are ones that I don't actually necessarily, need anymore. So I can get rid of whatever's going on behind this, right? So I get rid of that, but guess what? It's still showing. Why? Because it's linking up to this original master. All right, let's go back over to here and let me just drag this out of the way. Don't need that anymore. Okay, but guess what? It's still there because the master is there, right? Because it has these little colors there. Okay, so why would you want to do that? I want to do that because if I want to change the color, it's going to change it on all of them. Okay, pretty cool. Okay, so all right, that's great. So what does that look like? I go back here and I want to change this color. I can very easily change that, and that's going to change it across the board for everything that's in that left spread. All right, I'm not going to do that, but I want you to see again a really nice tool for that. Now, this is not necessarily working with placeholders, because all of these guys here, like these text boxes and such, these are ultimately going to be where I want my text to be. So I need to create like little placeholders for me to work with, and also placeholders for me to very easily bring in images for all of these here. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about our paragraph styles in a little bit, but I'm just going to double click on this and then open up my paragraph styles to see, okay, this is a document title that I also want to have a text box. It's going to be the same thing, same place for all of them moving forward. All right, so let's now just get rid of this. I don't want this here. I don't want this here, because I want to be able to have a placeholder for all of these on every single one of these pages. That's going to be the document title style for me to be able to very easily apply whatever text I want on that page. Okay, so let me go ahead and just go back up to my first one here, and I'm going to just draw out a text box again, because I'm going to do it kind of very sort of manually. So I'm going to go ahead and just zoom in and then access my type tool and then just draw out a text box. You might have to kind of go off the page a little bit just so you don't interfere with any of these other text elements here or other elements you might have on the page, and just bring it in accordingly, however you want to do it. Of course, you can change this later on. And what I'm going to do for this part here, I'm just going to say insert title here, just giving people a little hint of what they need to do. And then just make sure you select the type and apply that paragraph style that we just saw. So I click on that, and we're going to try to find where's all my titles. We go to here and go to document title. Great, there it is. Amazing. Now do the same thing for the left spread. This time I'm just going to do Alt, click and drag while holding down the Shift key. Okay, looks great. Left side, right side of the spread. And I'm pretty much ready to go for my type. So let's see what that's going to look like now. When I go over to, here's another A, and you'll see, okay, doesn't look that great. It's not really in the right spot, so I can very easily fix that. So I go back over to here, and now let's select both of these. I'm going to use my arrow keys. Actually, before I do that, let me make this about the right. Okay, so now hold down the Shift key, use my arrow keys, bring this down while holding down the Shift key. Makes it go a little farther and faster. Okay, good. Now I come back here, and you notice how easy that was to fix? No problem. Now, if I try to click on this, I'm gonna have a problem, right? Like, oops, nope, can't click on that. That's an issue. Because why? It's part of the master. But what did we just do here? What's the purpose of this? Is to create placeholders. It says insert title here, and I really want to do that. So this is how you do this. If you simply hold down the Control key plus the Shift key, and if you're on a Mac, it's going to be Command plus Shift, while selecting the actual text box, you will see it's going to break through what we have here. So this is now, my mouse is hovering over it. I hold down Control Shift and I click. That breaks through it. Okay, so now I can come over to here and just type out, right, our global outreach. Amazing. Now you'll notice that our title on the right hand side is also placeholder, so Control Shift and click, and bam, I can go right into there and make changes. Here are vision statements. Okay, now just so you know, in case you're having any kind of like weird issues or anything like that as you're trying to do this, your layer order is actually very important here, because if you have another object that's above this, that you've put in there, even though it was on the master, if you have another object that was higher than that inside of the layering order, you may run into some issues. So you want to always just kind of check to make sure that your layers are set up accordingly. All right, so here's another example. Okay, I can actually move this out of the way. All right, so you'll just want to make sure before you select any of these things that your layers are all set up and good to go, not only here within your section placeholder, but also within your background and everything like that, so nothing is covering it. Okay, so just a kind of a little sidebar note in case things are not necessarily working. That's why we covered the layers discussion pretty early on. Okay, so we can identify and troubleshoot different things. All right, now I have these images here, so let's do a placeholder for these images. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just simply, let's just get rid of this guy here. Let's get rid of that guy right there. Okay, super easy. And what am I going to do? I'm just going to bring in an image, but I would like to do that by using my image placeholder this time to do that. So let's just double click, go back into here. Notice there's nothing there. And what I'm going to do is create a frame that is going to be an image placeholder. So we can bring in a frame just like this. You'll notice how I can do different sizes of frames. So just for fun, let's see what we can do with just doing a perfect circle. And you can see there's a nice little X in there. Tells me that that in fact is a frame. And then maybe you want to resize this accordingly. And then of course you understand how your alignment works. You can align this perfectly centered if you like, making sure you're aligning to the margin and just say perfectly centered. Okay, that's great. Very nice. And there we go. All right, and then let's do the same thing for this side. Just gonna clone that. Okay, and that shifts it in there very nicely. Okay, so whatever image I bring in is now going to be in this circle frame, and it's going to be available as a placeholder for every single one of these A's. Okay, because if you're going to be doing a bunch of pie charts, you might want to have that all at the ready. So if I go back to A, you can see, all right, good. There is my placeholder all ready to go. Now, if I try to do my Control Shift, you can see there it is. It gets highlighted, and then I can just go to File and Place, and some of you already may know the keyboard shortcut, Control D. And let's just find some files for us to bring in. And I'm just going to bring in a picture of that, and then click on my shape, and then bam, goes right in there. Right click on it, fitting, and then let's just say fit content to frame, and then right click again. And we might have to do some fitting just depending on your images, content to where. Pretty good. Okay, and then I can move this around however I want to, right? Because this is still separate from the frame as its own image, and that looks pretty groovy. Okay, so you can see a number of different ways that we can use our placeholders. And for you, it might be a little bit different, but just working with our images and working with text placeholders should really get you going to be able to do pretty much what you want. All right, so really start to think about how you might be applying this, because some of you may be the architect of all of your different documents that you're creating, and you know that it's going to be for each page a particular layout, and you're going to have several different types of layouts, and you just want to make it easier for people when they bring content in, whether it's a title or just basic text or maybe a little copyright thing in the bottom or images, anything like that. You can absolutely save it as a placeholder in your master page, and then just remind people, just do Command or Control Shift to break through that little placeholder, and then just put in their own content, and you're good to go. All right, so pause the video, practice that, have fun, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Now, at this point, you're probably feeling pretty comfortable with master pages, all the things you can do with page numbers and sections and placeholders and all that good stuff. Now, let's imagine a scenario, a very realistic scenario, where you've done all this work on these amazing, amazing master pages here, and you have another document that could also benefit from these master pages. Do you want to have to recreate these? Do you want to have to do it from scratch? I have a feeling the answer is no. So InDesign has a pretty fantastic tool that's going to allow you to load in the master pages from any other document really simply. So let's just see that process. So I have this document open here, this proposal template, and you'll see I have my pages panel up. And if you take a look, I only have these master pages here. Now, when I right click, you'll see a lot of options here, right? Actually, only a few options, right? New master, etc. If I right click on the master, then I will see a lot of options here, right? And some of you may know these already, like new master, you can delete the master, okay? So lots of other options here in terms of just how you want the pages to be displayed. I don't see the options that I want here. So what I need to do is go over to this little guy right there, right? My little flyout panel, and see what I have as more options. And again, a little bit of overview, right, in terms of some what you have from before, like insert pages and new master again, and a few other things. But I do see more options than I did just a minute ago when I right-clicked. The one that we're looking for is going to be here inside of master pages, and I have a little flyout menu, and I have this option here to load master pages. Okay, so the implication here is that I can actually load master pages from another document entirely. Now, what I want to tell you that's going to kind of maybe address some concerns you may have is, wait, what am I loading up? I didn't save anything. You don't have to save anything because by virtue of the fact it's already been saved inside of the document, InDesign just brings it right in. Okay, so let's just see this in action. So I click on this. All right, that's going to come up to all of my files and everything like that. I have this all set up, ready to go. And this is the file that I was just working on. And I click on that. You may get a message basically saying, hey, the page sizes differ in the two documents. It could be the case, right? I'm not going to worry about that for right now, but it's just going to kind of be accordingly, just depending on how you have this set up. You can deal with that afterwards. I click OK and watch what happens. Bam, just like that. All that hard work that I just created to do all this extra stuff here is now all ready to go. So if I'm ready to now create a new page, I'm going to say insert page. I'm going to say, okay, how many pages do I want? I want 3 pages, and it's going to be before page 1. And guess what? Which master am I going to use? Whoa, now I have so many to choose from. And in fact, I want to use this one that's the A Master US letter cover option. So I go over to here, and then bam, I just borrowed that from the annual strategy, and now I'm able to now create 3 new pages that inherit all that, and they're all ready to go. We're going to talk about alternative layouts in just a little bit. That's why it came in like that. So don't worry about that for now. But in terms of the process, I want you to understand that this is how we're going to do it. It's very hidden in here, and you're going to say, again, master pages and then load masters, and all you do is just select the document you want to work with, right? It is fantastic. It's a huge time saver. Keep yourself consistent across the board, and again, streamline your process. All right, pause the video, practice that, have fun, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're doing okay. Let's move on now to styles. Now, for some of you, styles may be some review, but we're going to kind of go a little bit more advanced, a little more sophisticated, give you a little more sort of power over your content. Let's first just define what a style is. Putting it very simply, a style is simply just a saved format. It's really just like, hey, I formatted something. I want to be able to use it again and again. Now you'll notice I can use a paragraph style, which only applies to an entire paragraph. I can work with character styles, okay, which applies only to individual letters and words, but not the entire paragraph. And also I have object styles, which is going to work with entire objects, right? So what is an object? An object is a text box. It could be an image, right? Things like that. So now what are some examples of that? If we take a look at this guy right here, that's a paragraph style. we take a look at that one right there. That's a character style. And we take a look at this one right here. That's an object style. So let's just kind of break things down a little bit and kind of see what's what, how things are actually doing what they're doing. So if I click on this little paragraph, if you will, right here, it is actually a paragraph. You'll see that this paragraph style is just known as subtitle. If I go to my type down here, you'll notice how this is a character style called blue text. Paragraph style is still body text, right? Because this whole thing is body, right? So we don't really pay attention to that. When I click on this, I'm more concerned with the blue text character style. And then when I click on this little guy right here, you'll notice way down below under my object styles, you'll see I have this blue text frame object style, okay? Telling that how to behave. Now again, why do we use this? So we can implement these consistently across the board, so we can do it very quickly as well. And if we wanted to make a change, we can change it very quickly. So let's just see this in action. Okay, I'm looking at this particular heading here. Notice this is subtitle. I'm going to double click on that to make some edits to it. And all I'm going to do now is just make it bigger. So you can see it is 14 points. I'm going to make that bigger. Notice I can see it grow. Notice also because I have preview chosen there. That's fantastic. That's great. There's a few other things we're going to learn how to do on top of all this to be a little more advanced with some of our paragraph styles. But let's just want you to see now for this beginning set what we can do with it and why we do it. Now, there's a lot of other elements in here that have the subtitle paragraph style associated with it. And now those have all changed as a result of me just changing it within the paragraph style. Okay, for some of you, this might be some review. So just understand, I'm just trying to kind of get that background. All right, now let's go ahead and change this. Okay, I'm going to double click on that. And I'm going to change this to red text because that's what I'm going to change it to. And here, I'm going to go to my character color and let's find red inside of here. Let's make it dark red for right now. Okay, how about that? How about rusty red color? Rusty red. Okay, I click OK. And bam, there it is. Okay, great. So I have that there. Now, with my object style, pretty much the same thing, but paragraph styles and character styles look very similar to each other, where object styles look a little different. And we're going to be doing lessons on each of these. So just hang tight. Just again, broad stroke overview for right now. So when I double click on this one, you're going to notice it looks very, very different. Okay. So on the right-hand side in the middle, this is essentially telling me what settings are currently applied to this. On the left-hand side, this is telling me what options I have available to me to then make those changes necessary. So as an example, I see that there is in fact a fill color. So I can see what's my fill color. Oh, it's that CMYK value. Okay, great. I know that. That's awesome. You'll also notice that this has a paragraph style built into it. What? Oh my God, what does that even mean? Like, how's that possible? Right? Because this is a text frame, it has what we call a nested paragraph style living inside of this object style. What? That is so cool. So object style can have a paragraph style living inside of it, right? See that? That's going to help you be much more efficient. And we're going to talk about all that as we go forward. All right, so just getting all that stuff out of the way, we're going to see how we can also create them, and we'll also see how we can nest them. We can do all kinds of other fancy stuff on that just the same. Okay, so definitely explore this document, see what else is out there for you to work with. And there's quite a bit of object styles in here. You'll also notice that, and also character styles and paragraph styles. But I want you to notice how these are nicely organized. Okay, if you want some review on any of this stuff, you can go into our intro class. But organizing, you can see you can use our folders to be able to organize all of your individual styles accordingly if you want to. And if you're ready to create one, you can simply click on Create New Style, Create New Style, Create New Style. And I like the general rule of thumb is just to hold down the Alt key as I do that. All right. Now, if you want to get a review on how to do styles from the beginning, I suggest you go back and you watch our introduction video, because we want to get on to some good fun stuff where we can go a little bit more advanced, working with our nested styles, with character, with paragraph, with object, and also maybe do some more creative things than we've been doing ordinarily inside of our last video. All right, so just right now, give you some good foundation, and we're going to learn some, again, more complex stuff moving forward. Continuing on with the file that we've been working with for Introduction to Styles, our annual strategy master, we are going to just do some more styles. In this case, it's going to be a paragraph style, but we're going to nest in a character style into that. Why am I going to do that? The style that I'm going to create is going to apply a drop cap into this paragraph, right? So how do I do that? Just simply go into the paragraph anywhere. And I'm going to go up here to this little guy right there to find some drop cap options. So if you're not sure what drop caps are, you can go ahead and watch me and you'll see how cool this is. I click on that. It's going to say, okay, cool. I want a drop cap of this letter, the first letter that's there, 3 lines. You can see this is the drop cap number of lines. This is going to be the drop cap how many characters if you want to do that, right? So not interesting to me. All right, and that's great. However, it's not exactly what I want. But let me now, first of all, save this as a style because I want to do this for like the beginning of every chapter, for example. I want to have a little drop cap there. So what I'm going to do is make a new style out of this. So this might be a review for some of you. I'm just going to hold down the Alt or Option key, click on Create New Style underneath Paragraph Styles, and I'm just going to say drop cap first paragraph. Cool. Now I'm good, right? You can see everything I've done here. It looks great, and I'm good for now. Certainly, I got a lot of other options to play around with, but I'm going to say okay. And okay, but you know what? My boss comes over and says, listen, we want to do something a little different, right? We actually want to make it so it just looks more interesting because like this font, you know, it's good to read, but we want to have a little bit more attention to our font. Right? So if I highlight this, for example, and I choose like another one of these fonts I might want to use, and play around with this, and how about that one? Well, that's kind of interesting, right? Not the neatest thing in the world. So I'm going to experiment with some other ones that I might see here. Notice I can get a nice little, okay, what's that going to look like? Okay, that's kind of interesting, a little bit different. And then maybe what I'm going to do is just highlight it there, and then I'm going to change the color potentially, right? So just go over to here, double click on my T, and just do maybe like this, like nice crimson color. Okay, that's great. Okay, so I love that. I'm happy with it. And what I want to do now is make this into a character style because this is just an individual character. And next step is to nest that character style into my paragraph style of the drop cap. Let's see what that's going to do. Let's see how we do that. And by the way, I just happen to do this inside of the paragraph. It could be done anywhere. The purpose right now is just to save this so I can then just apply it later on and also save it as a character style. So I have character styles chosen here. This is now highlighted. I'm going to go to my Alt key, come over here, create new style, and you'll see I can now name this drop cap character. Great. I simply click OK. And now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in that character style into this drop cap first paragraph. So I double click on that, and guess what? You're going to see that there's this option for drop caps and nested styles, right? Look at that. 2 things we just talked about. And I'm going to nest in this drop cap character, right? And it's going to bring in that color, that font, all that good stuff. And I'm simply just going to click OK. Now, later on, I'm ready to do that same exact thing someplace else for another chapter. Let's find another chapter to work with. Let's come over to here. And click on this. And lo and behold, it does exactly what I want. Let's go to another one. Let's go to another beginning of the paragraph. Cool. Just go to this paragraph, and then I just say in my paragraph styles, drop cap, first paragraph. Oh, that's amazing. Oh my God, it does it for all of them. Because I have a character style nested inside of my paragraph style, okay? So let's say, you know what? I don't like this anymore. Change my mind. I don't want that drop cap character to be that font anymore. I don't want it to be blah, blah anymore, right? So what I'm going to do is simply just double click on that character style, come back over to here. I can find a different font if I want to, right? So let's just do something crazy. I'm going to say Edwardian script. And look how it changes right there. It's exactly what I was hoping it was going to do. Let's try another one, engravers. Oh, that's pretty nice. I kind of like that. Okay. And then from here, you can play around with a bunch of other things if you want to as well. Like in case you needed to adjust the kerning and the spacing around it, you can absolutely do that. You can decide you want to have a different color altogether. You can do that, right? Just notice how that's going to change for you. Oh, actually, that is not going to change color, and we'll discover why that is in just a second. All right, so we're good here. I click OK. And let me just clarify why that is, right? Because this entire thing, this rusty red, also is applied. This has its own character style already associated with it. Okay, so we would actually most likely just get rid of this whole character style if we were going to be doing this, right? So then it wouldn't be applied to any of this at all, and then it would then take on the color that I just changed it on. All right, let me just do that one more time so we can see here. Drop cap character, character color. Let's make that black, and now you can see that changes. Let's make it green. Okay, great. You can see how that changes. All right, because there was a previous character style on that whole line that was basically superseding that. All right, so let's have you practice that. You can see how great this is, and you'll start to see more and more of these things with giving you the opportunity to nest in one kind of style, one type of style into another style. All right, so go ahead and pause the video, practice that, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Now that we have a good understanding of how nested styles works, working with character styles into paragraph styles, let's see how the same thing could work for you with object styles. Remember, object styles apply to different objects, right? Like a text box or images and things like that. In this case, because this is a text box we're going to work with, naturally, a paragraph of sorts is going to go inside of that. Okay, so we want to be able to say every time I create a text box that's like this, I want the paragraph style to automatically be a certain format. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of visualize that because that's going to happen a lot. So if we look at one that's already been created, here's this blue fill text box. If I double click on that, you're going to see there it is, blue fill text frame that is. Okay, and you're going to see a few different options here under my style settings. Remember, this is telling me what's already here. And you can see, okay, there it is, my fill color. It's got all my CMYK stuff. All right, great. Then I have something here, my paragraph styles. So when I click on that, you're going to see there is in fact a paragraph style named box body text that lives inside of the box table folder that lives inside there. And that's what's making it be that format, right? That white color. Okay, great. So let me just cancel out of this for a second. And let's see what in fact that paragraph style is. So if I double click on this, I'm going to see what that looks like. And I can see, oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's got all that stuff there. Okay, great. But now just to be safe, so I know that that's actually what I think it is, let's just make the size a little different. I'm going to go over here to basic character, formats, and then making sure preview is selected, and let's just watch it grow. See that? So if you're paying attention, you'll see, oh, that's pretty cool. That's growing there. So what else might I want to do? Maybe I want to turn off the hyphenation. That might play around with some things. Okay, what about some other things here? Maybe my indenting I might want to play around with. Okay, so a lot of good stuff I may want to change. I can do it right here. And then again, it's going to be nested right inside of this object style. All right, so let's just see how we can create that ourselves, right? So let's just say I am going to insert a new page. Let's bring up my Pages panel. Go to Pages, and let's just see this in action. So I will just do a new page, insert page. I'm going to do that before page 4. Let's just do 2 pages. Before page 4. Okay, that's great. And now I'm ready to now apply what I've just done. Then I'm also going to create a new one as well. So let's check it out. I'm just going to simply draw out a text box. It's going to have some new type coming in. Just simply click and drag. Maybe that's the type you're working with. And I'm just going to click on it and apply my text frame object style. So I need to go find it. There it is. I click on that. And okay, we're off to the right start. That's great. And you'll notice that not only did this become blue based off of what I said for the object style format, but also you'll notice before I even put anything in, I now have this body box text paragraph style that's being put into there. So now, just so you can see, I'm just going to go ahead and go to type. I'm going to say fill with placeholder text, and look at that. Beautiful. Comes right in exactly how I expected it, with the Fira sans, the size, the color, and all that good stuff, all built in. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, very, very cool. So let's just do it one more time. Let's now do a different one where I'm going to start it from scratch. So I'm going to just create another text box here. All right, and then let's just move everything out of the way, and let's just make it a certain color. That's wonderful. That's great. And then let's just do a couple of other things here. Why not? Now that we're here, let's give this rounded corners. Okay. And let's just bump it up a little bit. So, okay, kind of fun. And then maybe you can even add on a little drop shadow. Okay, cool. Keep that going there. Maybe I'll bring down the transparency, the opacity a little bit. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm kind of good to go here. Sure. Maybe, maybe not. And then very simply, I'm going to create a new object style based off of this. So hold down your Alt or Option key, click on the little plus sign, and then I'm just going to call this text box drop cap. Probably guess where I'm going with this. And again, we'll see. There's my fill settings. Okay, that's great. And then if I wanted to change anything, notice I can change all kinds of different things here. Like, oh, look at that, my stroke and corner options. If I want it to be a little less cornery, I can do that. You'll see, there it is. Okay, that's great. That's all happening. Just go back to general for a second. Make sure that apply style to selection is in fact selected before you go any further, because that makes it so the style links up to whatever you've just selected. Okay, so you can see we have all these options here. Some of these, again, may look familiar to you. Just if you've ever worked with any kind of objects at all, you'll be able to understand some of these things as well, like your text frame options, okay, any auto sizing you're doing, text wrapping, all the stuff that you can do within an object style. But now we're here to talk about nested paragraph styles. So what am I going to do is I'm going to click on my little drop down, and I'm going to find the one that I created earlier, this drop cap first paragraph, and now that's built into it. And I'm going to click OK. And I'm ready to start typing my content in here. So I'm just going to simply double click. And then go over here to type and insert my placeholder text. And look at that. Automatically, it's all in there. And this is only going to be one paragraph, so I don't need to have 2 drop caps. And you see how it brought it in exactly how I asked it to. And even cooler than this is the fact that this is 3 nests happening in one. This is a paragraph style that has a character style nested in it. And that paragraph style is then nested into, guess what? My object style. So very, very cool, right? Kind of an amazing thing that we can do this and have that much power and that much efficiency. All right, so let's now just go maybe a step further just to kind of clean this up a little bit. And you can also learn some things you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on that. And then maybe I'd like to work with some of my text frame general options. And then let's just bring in my inset and I'll say, okay, that's cool. Yep, I definitely needed that. That makes it much better to read, much easier. And then possibly you're going to put in 2 columns. Who knows? Just know all the options you have. Same options you had when you were just right-clicking and saying text frame options. But now this is going to be a style. So very, very cool. So you really want to practice this. And again, keep an eye out for different other ways that you can be nesting different types of styles inside of different types of styles to add more complexity, have more efficiency, and have more control and creativity over your content. Now, let's try to do something a little more creative with our paragraph styles. Let's see what we can do that's maybe a little more kind of like visually interesting, but also provides this level of like structuring for our content, where we can make things look a little different for us. That's not just like basic fonts and things like that. So namely, we're going to be working with shading, and we're also going to work with borders. So I would like to make this look a little bit different than just regular text. I kind of want to make it stand out, be a little more creative with it. So let's just check out what we can do. Kind of fun to be able to do this kind of thing. So let's just see what our options are. So I'm going to go over here to subtitle, double click on it. And I want you to notice on the left-hand side, I have this option for paragraph border, and I have an option for paragraph shading. So when I click on paragraph border, you'll see here's all my options here for everything. And very simply, if I want to apply any kind of border, and this border kind of automatically is going to be just like a little box around it, right? Maybe that's what you want, maybe not, but I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is on the right-hand side, I have this top, bottom, left, and right set of options to say, hey, listen, where do I want this border? I only want one on the left-hand side. So I'm going to unlink these, and then I'm just going to say 0 for you, 0 for you, 0 for you. And I have this very thin little border here, but I'm going to make that quite thick. So I'm going to bring that up to like, let's just say 10. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, let's start with that. Now I can also go over to here and I can change the color to something different, right? You can maybe choose the same color that you have on the document itself, or just anything else you might want to play around with it. Okay. Now just choose whatever color you like. Maybe you also want to do, different kind of styles and things like that. Well, you learn that in the stroke lesson. But now this obviously does not look that great. So what am I going to do next? I am going to work with my offset. So my offset is like, hey, move this away from where this is right now. So I'm just going to unlink this and just say, hey, listen, move away from me about that many points. All right. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. All right. But now you'll also notice how my indent is not really that great. So I'm going to bring this in a little bit. So then that could come in just the same. Great. And then, all right, now we're kind of playing a little cat and mouse. So I got to go back to my paragraph border, and then let's bring that back in again. Okay, that makes more sense to me. All right, good. Now it's nice and aligned right there. And you can see that looks pretty cool. I really like that. All right, so I'm going to stop the video for right now, have you pause it as well, and then try this on your own, and we'll come back. We will do shading. Okay, now continuing off from where we left off, let's just do maybe a little bit of shading on this. So I'm going to go over here to paragraph shading, and I'm going to turn on my shading just like how I turned on my border, just by simply clicking on the box. And you say, oh, all right, that's kind of interesting. Kind of like that, really kind of like makes it all stand out a little bit. So what might I want to do with this? I can play around with the color of this. I can also play around with my sort of tinting of it as well. So I can start off with black, but then make the tint come down a little bit. It's like, okay, maybe that's a little bit easier to read, but it also makes it look very important if I want to play around with that. And then possibly you want to play around with our corners, right? So if we look over here on the right-hand side, I might want to have that be kind of rounded on the edge. So I'm just going to unlink this, and I'll make this rounded and also rounded. I'm going to bump this up to 5, bump this up to 5, and let's behold and see what that does. Oh, That's kind of cool. Maybe I'll go up a little higher than that. So make that 10, make that 10. Great, fantastic. I really like that. And again, you can do this on the top, you can do it on the bottom, whatever you like. Now with our offsets, you will see that, well, maybe it's not as perfect as I'd like. You can play around with that. So let me just unclick my link here. I'll just make that go up a little bit and maybe up here. Okay, great. Maybe that's a little bit better. It links up to it. Okay, so you can really achieve the perfection that you want on this, right? So we did our indents and spacing. We did some shading, all kinds of variations on our shading. We did our corner size and our shape and everything like that. So you can really play around with these to get what you want to be as creative and as, kind of functional as you need to be. All right, because that's ultimately what we're looking to do, is making it so it's easier for people to read these things. So now when I click OK, let's see the beauty of working with styles. This particular thing has a style on it, right? This particular heading is subtitle. And if I scroll down a little bit, I'll see, oh, that's so cool. It applied it for everything. Oh, that's really neat. And I actually really like this. Very cool. So again, pause the video, practice doing this. If you haven't practiced using our borders yet, do that. And then apply shading. And you'll see it's a really nice streamlined way to be creative and functional with your content. So we'll see you in the next lesson. Now let's switch up gears a little bit and talk about strokes and how we can actually be a little more creative and a little more sort of customized with our strokes. You'll see that InDesign has some pretty fun kind of tricks up its sleeve to do a variety of different things with strokes and kind of a little more than meets the eye. So let's just take a look at what a stroke is if you're not familiar with strokes, which I'm sure you are at this point, but you can see I have a nice little outline, little border around all my images. You'll also notice how I have the word stroke. It actually has an outline there and a little right there. Okay, great. So how do we do that? Really simply, I just simply double click on the words and you'll notice here that I have this little T that shows me in the stroke section there that I can make that into a variety of different colors. And also I can also make that be a little bit thicker and do all kinds of different things if I want to, right? Nice and easily. Okay. Now you will also notice that there is a strokes panel to be able to customize some of these things here. So where does my strokes panel live? I go over here to window, I bring up stroke, and you'll see, okay, great, fantastic. So when I double click back on this, it's going to allow me to now change the width, or the weight that is, of my stroke. Really nice, really easily. Okay, fantastic, and I love that. And I'm just going to click away, and great. Now, that's just kind of the beginning of what we can do with strokes, and you can be pretty custom. You can be pretty creative with it. Now, again, you can see here's my basic stroke. Here's my weight of my stroke. I can do the same thing over here if I want to. I can change the color of it, etc. But now you'll notice that there is a drop-down menu for my stroke to say, hey, listen, I want to do something a little different. Oh, that's kind of nice. A little more creative, a little more different, a little more visual interest. But then notice as you kind of move along here, you'll have some other different ones, right? Like, how about this little straight hash? Oh, that's kind of cool. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Cool. That's sort of interesting. And because I have my stroke panel up, I can see other things that I can do potentially, like my alignment of my stroke. Align stroke to center, align stroke to inside, and align stroke to the outside. So if I go to the inside, notice how I lose some of the information, but it's also maybe the look that I'm looking for. So if I were to change this now in terms of the type to dotted, notice how they're all kind of on the inside like that. Let's go over here to Japanese dots, even more so. Okay, this time let's go to the outside. Oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. And you just really kind of play around with that as you see fit, right? Totally up to you. Now, let's take this, what we just done here, and let's apply what we call a stroke with a gap in there, right? Gaps or gap colors in this case, all right? So if I choose this now, I'm going to do something similar here. Let's just do wavy. All right, that's kind of neat. And then I make that a little thicker if I want to. All right, that's kind of cool. Yeah, you can just kind of play around with it. Maybe the cap changes potentially, depending on the stroke itself. a lot better with lines, but you can see again, here's the option for aligning, all that. Now, this particular one that I just did has let me bring this to the outside, has a gap, believe it or not. Just like these Japanese dots, has a gap in them. So what does that mean? What's that going to allow me to do? It's going to allow me to have a little bit more texture and a little more dimensionality in these gaps by applying, guess what? Colors, right? My gap color, I can now choose any variety of these here that are saved in my swatches. So let me just go ahead and do this little pink one there. Oh, that's kind of neat, right? You can say, oh, that's kind of interesting. I can do things a little bit more creatively. Well, let's just try it with the Japanese dots. Oh, that's kind of fun, right? So you can really play around with these things, and just kind of customize, maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit smaller. Maybe we want more dots. So it doesn't really take away, but we still have the color. We have the kind of visual interest that we're looking for. So I click away and say, oh, that's kind of neat. Right? So again, playing around with a different level, going a little more complex with our strokes, we can now add on a gap color. So pretty cool, pretty neat. Now, these are just like basic strokes that we've seen that we can put around our image. Now, let's just say, for example, I wanted to draw out a line or something like that. I'm just going to do a very simple line, just like that. You'll see that, yes, I can apply the weight of it. Yes, I can change the type if I want to, but I can also change these guys here, which is going to imply that I can work with arrows and also other kind of like heads and butts on there, right? So I'm going to make my start. You can see, bam, that's going to go there. And then my end, it's going to go, let's just choose that. All right. Or I switch it around. See, you can very easily switch these around. Very cool. But then my little square is a little bit too big. So let me just make that a little smaller. Let's bring that down to like, let's say 60%. Nice. I like that. And I'm going to change this to dashed. Very cool. Okay, so you can be a little more creative with just like special lines just as they are and make them arrows. And I can rotate this if I want to, do all kinds of different things if you like. All right, so that's the next thing you can do with all of these. All right, so and by the way, before I move away from this, the dash with the gap color also works together, right? Before I forget. So let's just do green. And you can see, wow, that is pretty neat. And again, if I make this a little bit thicker, it grows with it. And if I make that a little longer, that also grows with it. So a lot of creative potential here. So let me just relegate this guy over here. Come back to you later. Now, let's start working with something even more cool. All right, these little Easter eggs that InDesign provides where we can actually bring in strokes that don't exist in this little drop down that InDesign kind of has like kind of hiding for us. And that is working with rainbow, feet, dog feet, and also lights. So how do we do that? I'm going to simply go over to my stroke panel and then find my little flyout menu here. Okay, so some of you may have experimented with some of the other panels to see that. I click on that and you're going to see there's this stroke styles right there. And you can see these are all the styles that I have there. Okay, great. But what do I want to do? I want to have a rainbow. Don't see rainbow here. Boo. So what do? I just simply click on new and this pops up here. And this is kind of nice in the future if you ever do want to customize something. You can absolutely do it from scratch, right? And you can kind of make whatever you like from here. We're going to create a rainbow one, but just know that this option here is going to allow you to really create custom strokes if you want to, right? If you kind of want to be all over the place with kind of like different randomness, this is a great place to start. But I'm going to show you how we can do a, guess what? Rainbow. And all I did was type it in. So somebody at InDesign right now is saying, oh, somebody wants a rainbow. So they're generating right now inside of the Rainbow Factory for me to have a rainbow. And what type do I want to do? I want to make it a stripe. It's very important. You choose rainbow, you type in rainbow, you choose stripe, and it doesn't really show me anything. Not a fan. I don't know what's going on here. So what I need to do is simply click on add. Oh my goodness, what just appeared out of the clear blue sky is a rainbow. So I click OK. And now I'm going to apply this little line here that I drew ahead of time. I'm going to apply a rainbow to this. So how do I do that? I can either go to my drop down here, there's rainbow, or I can go right to here and then scroll down to the bottom. There's rainbow. And I got to make it thick enough so I can actually see my rainbow. Let's go up to 50. Ah, it's so cool. Oh my God, how awesome is that? And that could be just a line. That could be around a border, everything, right? And of course, if I make this bigger, that's going to grow. You'll also notice that there's going to be a few other options that I can do, like this cap. So if I zoom in here, you'll be able to see, oh, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I like that. Kind of just looks paint. Okay, this one is going to go right back to where I was before. Okay, fantastic. That is the coolest thing. All right, so you'll want to play around with that. Just understand how I did that again is by going over here to my stroke styles and applying that. I'm going to do a few more. You'll be able to watch me and also see what we can do. So we're going to do feet, we're going to do dog paws, and we're going to do lights. So click on this, go over here to my stroke styles. I'm going to click on new, and I'm literally just going to type out the word feet. That's it. And I'm going to make sure that dash is chosen. It's great. And I click OK. And ooh, there's little feet. Okay, pretty neat. I click OK. And I choose my little wavy thing here. That's amazing because there's going to be little feet coming across here. Now, before I apply it, I'm just going to actually turn off my gap color. Okay, so I want to make sure that when I do this, I have no gap color. All right, because once I do it, I'm going to see that there's going to be all kinds of different options there. All right, so let me apply my feet. All right, that's going to come in. I'm going to say none. And now let's make it nice and big. Oh, look at my feet grow. What is happening there? So cool. Wow. And that really looks like somebody's kind of walking along there. But now, if I add on a gap color to this, it's going to look like, guess what? They're walking on a road someplace. Isn't that neat? Okay, let me just make this so it's kind of coming off the page a little bit. Like, wow, that's awesome. All right, but now let's make their feet white. Okay, cool. So you have all kinds of creative opportunities here to really kind of like tell your story in such a way if you ever need them. Okay, let's continue on now. Let's go over here to our doggies or our doggy and our doggy feet. So again, I have nothing selected except for my stroke panel. I'm going to go over here to stroke styles and I'm going to say new. And this time, the good folks at InDesign want us to type out the word woof. Sorry, cat lovers out there. And I'm going to say OK. And then there's my woof. I simply click OK. And now this time, I'm going to apply it to this cute little husky here. And how do I do it? Same way as I did it with all these guys here, I'm now going to apply a stroke around it. That is now going to be woof. And now maybe make that a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. Okay, cool. Love that. And of course, you'll experiment with the size. You can experiment with how you want to align it. You'll experiment with the color. Maybe you want to have, again, a little bit of a gap color there. Okay, so lots you can do here. So cool. All right, and then just for fun, let's just make that white so that stands out. Cool. A little bit easier to read potentially. Okay, and then the last one we're going to do lights, and we'll do some lights maybe around this image here. So one more time, let's say stroke styles, say new. And then literally doing lights, literally saying dash, click OK. And then there you can see my lights. Great. Click on my little, actually I'm going to do this one, sorry. I'm going to click on my frame here. And then let's put some lights around it. Nice. That looks so cool. But maybe I want it even cooler by making it a little bigger. And then just notice how they just grow, grow, grow. That is so neat. And that could be around anything that you've got there. And that looks pretty groovy. And again, let's try doing it a little bit inside, just around the outside, and completely around the outside. All right, so experiment with this. You'll see you'll have a lot of value for this. You know, you want to play around and be creative, have fun, just know what the tools are, and then know what kind of capacity you can use the tools in, and just go crazy. And like I said, have fun, pause the video, practice it up, and use this document as this nice little cheat sheet for you. And we'll see you in the next lesson. In this next series of lessons, we're going to get a little more creative. We're going to work with shapes. We're going to work with the direct selection tool. We're going to work with the Pathfinder panel. We're going to work with the ability to just kind of manipulate things to be somewhat, again, more creative with InDesign. Outside of all the kind of layout things, you'll see that InDesign has some pretty nice creative tools. So we're going to go a little bit faster for this part because some of you may have watched already the introduction class on working with shapes. So I'm just going to show you very quickly how to make shapes, and then we're going to see how we can manipulate them using the direct selection tool. So if I'm going to just draw out a very basic rectangle shape, I can do that here. Looking at my color, I have no stroke, and I have this nice pretty light blue color. I'm just going to simply click and drag just like that. Great. And you'll notice that this particular shape has 4 these little corners here. Okay. You'll see that corner, 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 corner. At this point, notice that they are kind of hollow at this point. This shape is what's known as a vector. Okay, now this vector consists of these little individual vector points that can be manipulated. And something that is a vector can also be manipulated in a very kind of smooth way, where if I make this a resize or if I add on more vector points, it's going to be a very clean line outside of that. Okay, so it's a really cool technology using essentially these vector points that get over and over reinvented, so they never lose any of their resolution as opposed to a photograph. All right, so let's now go over here to this tool right here, which is my direct selection tool, as opposed to my regular selection tool. Notice how the path points change into these other path points, or they're not technically path points, okay, but these are going to be our bounding boxes for that. And I click on that, and that changes to here. And now notice how they're all solid. When I click away, it gets deselected. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to select one of my path points. And you'll see how this is solid, and then these are hollow. Why did I do that? Because I want to manipulate this. I want to be a little more creative with this shape. So I'm going to move my mouse over it. I get that little box that appears there. And then I click and I'll say, okay, what do I want to do? I'm going to make this into a different shape. Pretty cool. Great. And maybe you're happy with this. Good to go. You love that. But you know what? I actually want to put a picture inside of this. So guess what I can do? I can select this. Let me just go ahead and select the image. And even though it's a shape and not a frame, guess what? I can now place something inside of this, like really easily. Okay, so I can find a nice picture to work with. Okay, let's just bring this one in. All right, and then I can go ahead and manipulate this accordingly. So let's just make that nice and big. So it just goes right there. Certainly I could use my fitting tool to do that. You can see, oh, that's kind of nice, right? And I can have just kind of maybe a different way of working with this, right? So maybe I'm going to have another shape that's underneath this. And this time I'm going to do it completely underneath it just like that. And of course I could work with my layers to then bring that underneath it, just like that. And now I've got a nice little layout for some text here, maybe my logo, everything like that. So I'm just doing it in a little more kind of creative way. Oh, kind of nice. All right, so you'll see how we can take a basic shape and then manipulate it into something else using, again, our direct selection tool. All right, let's come down here. I have another set of pages here for us to play around with so we can see other ways that our direct selection tool can help us. So I'm just going to this time draw out an ellipse, which is going to be a perfect circle, holding down the shift key. And now this time, again, my direct selection tool, I want you to notice how I have these little individual path points around there. But because this is a curved line, when I click here, I'm going to get these little handles here with this little circle there. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, this is known as my Bezier handles. And they're pretty great, right? Because they allow us to manipulate our shapes in a number of different ways if you want to. So if I just simply click and drag up right there in the middle, I get that. Same thing going back, go all the way down. And you'll also notice that I have these little guys on the side for me to bring this out and bring this out, and also bring them in and bring them out that way. All right, in a little bit, we're going to bring up some other tools that are going to allow us to then only do one side or just that side, okay, or even convert this to a hard angle. All right, so this is just a basic introduction on how we work with the direct selection tool and how you can use this to manipulate shapes in a really, really effective way. So what I encourage you to do is pause the video, draw out some basic shapes. Hopefully you have that background already, and really experiment with how it all works. Play around with the hard angles and then see if you can be creative maybe with some different shapes. And then later on, we're going to learn how we can add on more anchor points to these to have even more complex shapes. All right, pause the video, practice that, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Now, let's discuss the pen tool. Now, the pen tool is actually a combination of a variety of different types of tools. When you go into the panel itself, here's the pen tool, here's the add anchor point tool, here is the delete anchor point tool, and here's also a convert direction point tool. So we're going to just do a brief lesson to see how we can work with the pen tool, but then also work with these sort of variants on here. Pen tool is, as the name implies, going to allow you to kind of draw things out. But what it doesn't imply is that you don't draw like a pen like you normally do. Right? You don't just like click and drag. You literally click and then you go bam, and then you go bam, and then you finish it and you go bam. So what were those bams? I literally was just clicking, 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 and then I finish it off, wait for my circle, and then there I have it. Okay? It's as easy as that to just draw out those like simple right angles. Let me just undo all that. If you want to do curves, you were actually going to click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, and then finally come over to here and click and drag. You see that? So I kind of more or less got the same thing that I started with. All right, so that's kind of your nice basics of working with the pen tool, right? And that could be in any way you want to, right? So right now I just have a fill that I've done, but if you only want to do just a stroke, let me go ahead and just switch this around, okay? And I can just switch that for that. And now let me switch this around with nothing selected. And now I have just a black line. And with my pen tool, I can now just say, hey, this is going to be just a very simple kind of little, what would that be? Some type of parallelogram, something like that, close to it. But this time I'm going to try something different. So I go to here and now I'm going to click and 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 drag and drag and drag. Do you see that? So that's how I've done that. Okay? To have little curvy lines there. All right, so very different when you're making lines that have no stroke in there. All right, so just some basics to kind of get you on your way with working with the pen tool. All right, and that will take some practice. So I definitely encourage you to practice that. The next thing we're going to do real quick is just understand all of these little sub options here to really manipulate your shape. So let me just come right back up to here again from our last lesson. And I might want to be a little bit more kind of nuanced with this, right? So I actually want to have a little bit more kind of texture, if you will. So each of these things I said in the last lesson are all consists of little anchor points. So if I want to add on an anchor point, I can very easily do this, okay? So with this selected, okay, we'll be able to see, click away here, and let me just select my image, and we'll see, oh, come back to that, there we go. All right, and we'll see this whole thing is there. Actually, you know what? Let me lock this layer. I think that's been my problem. I need to actually select this, so only this is selected. All right, now I'm going to add on an anchor point to here just by simply clicking right there, and bam, I got another anchor point right there. Let's see the edge of the shape. I know it's kind of hard to see. And then I'm just adding these on here. And you'll see why I'm doing that in just a little bit. Notice I'm going right on the line, add anchor point. And if you miss it, InDesign will definitely give you a little bit of a warning as a result. Okay, maybe I'll just add on maybe one more, or it doesn't tell me at all. Okay, good. So now I have the ability to now really play around with this in a variety of different ways by simply going to my direct selection tool, and I'm going to say, listen, I'm going to bring you in. So let's deselect, come back here. Now reselect can be a little bit tricky, just keeping an eye on the different colors of these little anchor points. And then just bring this in a little bit. Okay, having just a little bit of visual interest, a little bit different. I can now manipulate this. Maybe even bring this over here. Okay, that's kind of cool. I can do all that stuff. Okay, that's kind of nice. And come back, select this, and zoom out again. Say, okay, cool. Now, again, something a little bit more creative, and maybe you have something kind of peeking out of this, or whatever you want to do. Maybe you're making a drop shadow, something like that. You're just having, just something a little bit different to kind of make something happen that's a little more visually interesting. For example, I have my frame chosen, and I click on the effects. I go to drop shadow, and we'll see, oh, okay, I can see a little bit of a shadow coming in. Let me change the angle of that. Oh, cool, I like that. Maybe bring that down a tiny, tiny bit. Maybe my offset come down. It's going negative on me. Let's go the opposite direction. I like that. Now let's bring down the opacity slightly. So now, wow, cool. Now we have this nice little effect that we wouldn't be able to get otherwise if we didn't have our shapes and frames all connected like this. All right, so this was a nice little combination of a few things here where we had our pen tool and our add anchor point tool to be able to manipulate these things and then ultimately end up on something a little more creative. We worked with some basic shapes to be able to do that. We also worked earlier with our Bezier handles and also our anchor point tools. And a little bit, we're going to go a little bit deeper into our Pathfinder panel. So stay tuned, pause the video if you like, practice this, and we'll see you in the next video. In this lesson, we're going to go over the Pathfinder panel. All right, so the Pathfinder panel is a little bit hidden. We're going to go over here to Window. We're going to come down here to Object and Layout and just bring up Pathfinder. And I'm just going to minimize that, bring this here. And there's a lot to really unpack here. We're just going to focus on just like a handful of these and kind of think some of the more important ones. So you'll see over here is the convert shape, and here's also convert point. So we're going to start with that for right now. So I'm just going to make this so I have a black fill, and I'm going to very simply just draw out a perfect circle. That's great. And then going to go ahead and now draw out a perfect square. Okay, wonderful. Now let's see what we can do with some of these options. As promised, what do? They will convert shapes, and you can see there's all kinds of shapes that we can convert to. So very easily, if I wanted to convert this to rounded cornered square, okay, notice if you zoom in a little bit, it is in fact rounded corners. Okay, maybe you know how to do that already. You'll see here in the upper left, this allows me to then manipulate how kind of rounded do I want that to be. So I can even increase that if I like. If I want to make this into a octagon, you can do that, or have that inset, or look at that, a perfect circle, or look at that. Oh my God, amazing. Okay, here's another polygon. Okay, so lots of options you can do here very, very quickly. Okay, so come back to that. Now, these guys here allow you to convert points. What does that mean, convert the points? So far up until this point, we've actually worked with all these different types of points. Like we have our little curve points, and we're going to have our angled points. Okay, so you can see there they are, and I click on this and notice no little Bezier handle comes out. So I might want to convert that. So let's say, for example, I wanted this to be a hard angle down below. All I need to do is simply select the path point and then just do that. And look at that. Very cool. I've just converted that. Let's do that for the same thing for this one. Nice. Now I have a very unique shape I wouldn't ordinarily be able to get. And I could still use my direct selection tool to now just, I'm going to use my arrow keys this time. And look at that. Nice. Now I'm making a little teardrop, something like that. Maybe this is the beginning of my logo. Something like that. Maybe I'm drawing a genie, something like that. Now let's convert this back to where it was before. So let's take a look at some of these options here. If you go over to this one here, smooth, changes selected points to a continuous curve. So I click on that, And then, nice. And I'm back to that. And I can also manipulate this using my arrow key. Very cool. I click away. Wonderful. Love that. Pretty great. All right, and now let's just try it again with this one here. And I'm going to convert this to nice. I love that. And let's do it with this one. Same thing. And I'll make that cool. Something unique, something different. Now, these other guys are going to be how you work with your Bezier handles. Earlier we talked with the Bezier handles. So you'll see here that there's a few other options here. So you're going to see that there's the symmetrical changes selected points to smooth points with equal direction length, right? And what is this one? This is going to be, it's going to be corner changes selected points to have independent direction lines. Okay, what does that mean actually? So right now, if I were to now manipulate this and I were to go this way or that way, okay, that is symmetrical. Okay, all right, that's pretty cool. But I don't always want that, right? Because when I move this guy, I don't want the other guy moving. So that's where I can go into here. Not a whole lot happens, but watch what happens when I click and drag here. See? Independent of that. So essentially kind of turns this into a kind of a hard corner if I want that while maintaining this to be a curve. Okay, let's do that one more time. You can see now, I can now manipulate that to go slightly different. And just notice how that works in terms of how my Bezier handles work. All right, great. I love that. And now maybe I'm making the beginning of a baseball stadium. All right, great. That was easy to do. And it all started off with a basic circle. All right, love that. Great. Now, let's discuss finally in the Pathfinder tool, this little Pathfinder group. This is going to allow you to make kind of more complex shapes if you'd like. So let's say, for example, I wanted to combine two shapes to make something a little bit more interesting. So I'm just going to simply draw out a different color shape. Doesn't really matter what color because we're going to just sort of combine them. All right, and I'm going to do a circle. Perfect circle there. And watch this. I'm going to move this guy on top of that. That's how it centers out there. And I want to kind of just poke a hole through there, just as an example. So I select both of these shapes, and you'll see here, I have a number of different options for me to play around with. And they're relatively self-explanatory. Combine selected objects into one shape. I click on that, and then, okay, great. So the top shape wins, and now it's just one shape. Not something I'll be doing a lot, but you can see that's pretty cool. Here's another one. Subtract. Subtracts the frontmost objects from the backmost object. Cool. And I just use that as kind of a stencil, if you will. Okay, pretty cool. You can see this one. Intersects the shape areas. Okay, so essentially we're using that as a stencil, but sort of a reverse. All right, and then you have this one. Exclude overlapping shape areas. Okay, and again, sort of like a bizarro world. This one, I'm not sure if that's going to do anything. Could not complete operation, results in an empty region. All right, so this one minus back subtracts the most back from the frontmost object. That's not going to do anything for us here, so we'll skip that. But now let's just go back to here where I'm going to remove this. And you'll see that when I select this with my direct selection tool, I now actually have another shape in here. So if I wanted to control this shape that's in the middle, I can very easily do that. And notice what comes up is my black. So now I'm making like a little critter, right? So maybe this is my new logo. And I just imagine this just by creating two shapes to create something a little bit more complex that I couldn't have ordinarily made on my own. Okay, so that can be kind of fun. And then maybe just for fun, lots and lots of fun, let's just draw out a nice little shape that's going to be underneath it. And that's going to be this oval, bring it underneath. And now I'll see it's got like little sunglasses. Great. And then maybe I'm going to put some grading in there, something like that, make it look a little more realistic. Fantastic. Awesome. I am done. All right. So again, be creative with all this stuff. Really have fun with it. And then in a little bit, we're going to come back. I'm going to talk a little bit about text and how we can convert text and type into paths as well, also known as creating outlines. Let's now talk about working with type in a little more kind of unique way. And that is making our type turn into shapes, essentially. also known as creating outlines. So if I have my type selected here, you'll notice that inside of the type menu, you're going to see this option to create outlines. So essentially what that means is that I can make this type into shapes. Now, there's a few reasons why I may want to do that. I might want to do that because I'm sending it to a printer, and the printer is requiring that I make it into outlines. You say, well, why is that? Why do they care that it's shapes or not? You'll see that a lot of times a printer, like literally the printer itself, will not be able to print things in the way that you want it to because like the print itself comes out maybe a little bit jagged. If you have it as a shape, because it becomes a vector, then you'll see that you won't have that problem. And that's why a lot of printers will require you that you make it into outlines. So watch what happens as I do that. I'm going to go up to the type menu. I'm going to say create outlines. And now nothing really appears to happen until guess what? I go back to my direct selection tool and I select it. And then, oh, look at that. Whole bunch of little anchor points for me to play around with. Okay. Well, not even really play around with. At this point, maybe I'm just happy with the way this is. Okay. And that's all I really need. But certainly you could come in and you can manipulate these like as another shape. Look at that. I can then make my own font if you want to, right? So, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm getting kind of metal on this. Great. And then of course I can make this into a curve if I want to, however you want to do this. Okay. Another reason why you might want to actually convert your text into shapes is to do kind of what we call it like a clipping mask, if you will. So if I were to just highlight everything here, and then if I place my image in, as if I'm placing it into, guess what, a shape or a frame, I'm going to get the same effect. So I'm going to go to File and Place, and you'll see, okay, great. You're sick of these food shots or wedding shots, but let's just go ahead and bring her in there. And then what? Oh my God, that's so cool. And I can even bring her down inside of there if I want to. And let's just see. Cool. All right, that's kind of telling my story in a very nice way. Let's kind of go into that. All right, pretty cool. I love that. But yet, if we want to go a little bit deeper, we could go into working with strokes on this, because when I go back to my preview, can't really see it as I'd like to, but let's see what we can do. So I'm just going to highlight everything. Nice, selected there. Let's get everything. And I'm just going to increase the stroke size. Just bring that up, up. Wow, I love that. Very, very cool. Maybe you want to change the color to something different. Love that. Maybe even want to go a step further with some of these little fun guys. Oh my God, so cool. You have so much fun with it. And just this started off with text, and now you can bring your images inside of there. So lots of really cool, unexpected, hidden creative features that happen when you make things into shapes, because this becomes a vector tool after a while. Okay, so again, InDesign has some nice vector tool options, and if you make your type into outlines, it becomes a shape, and then you can do all kinds of things with the direct selection tool. You can make it into a mask, and also a clipping mask, that is. And also, as I said, when you send it to the printer, at the very least, they may ask you to create outlines out of your text. All right, so really an invaluable, indispensable tool that you will definitely need to do on almost every occasion when you're sending it to a printer. So keep that in mind, whether it's creative or practical. Okay, so pause the video, practice that, and we'll see you in the next video. We're now going to discuss table of contents and how to create a table of contents. So you've all seen table of contents before in books and magazines and other publications, where we want people to know what the titles of things are and essentially where to find them. And you also want to see the structure of the document, with headings and subheadings and all that good stuff. So normally table of contents go in the beginning of the document, and that's essentially what we're going to do in this document. So you should have this document here called Creating Table of Contents. Now, the first very, very important thing to know is that table of contents depend and refer to styles, and namely paragraph styles and a little bit, to a certain extent, character styles, right? Depending on how sort of fancy you want to get. Now, table of contents needs to know where the things are that you are trying to link to. So I want I remember cheese to be part of my table of contents, the big cheese, etc. All these kind of like headings here. Now you'll notice that when I go over to here to the big cheese. This actually has a paragraph style. Let's go into this under headings called CT chapter title. That's going to be very important for me later on. Now, if I go down to another one here, you'll see that this is my chapter head. Okay, great. Let's go over to here to another one. This is going to be a different one. Wait for it. We'll get to it. This is a different one. Okay, this is my feature title. Okay, great. So fantastic. Now we're going to see that we can now bring in our table of contents based off of what we know about those styles, where they live, and essentially where do we want to put them. All right. So before you go any further, if you're planning to do table of contents, make sure you understand how to create paragraph styles and structure your content in such a way, knowing that those elements are going to end up in your table of contents. All right. So hopefully that's clear. All right. Now let's see how we can create the table of contents. So if we go over to here to the layout menu, and we simply click on layout, you're going to see here's this option for a table of contents. Click on that, and this dialog box is going to pop up. Now, when you open it up, there actually may be this option for more options. So go ahead and click on that so we can see everything. Now, what we're going to see here is a pretty complicated set of dialog boxes, right? Or a pretty complicated set of options within this dialog box. Okay, so let's just kind of go a little slowly about what we have here. We're going to start off with this section here, this title, and then we're going to start talking about the styles of the title. Then we're going to go into all these things here and then a little bit more here. All right, and then of course everything inside of this. All right, so now the first thing they're asking us very simply is, well, what do you want to call your table of contents? And I'm going to call it table of contents, right? The default is just contents. Of course, change that whatever you want, right? So our mission or ceremonial agenda, whatever you want to call this, you can call it anything you want. Next thing you're asking me is, well, I understand that you have this word table of contents. What is the style that you want this to be? This part here is just basically going to make the words table of contents look a certain way. So it's just the style. Everything we know about style. So you think, hey, listen, this is going to be table of contents, and where this table of contents is going to look based off of what this paragraph style dictates it to look. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now, this part on the bottom is a little bit different. This goes back to what I was just talking about. We're working with the styles that are going to live inside the table of contents. All right, so I really want you to kind of digest that. What we're looking at here is all of those like cheese things and everything like that, they had a certain paragraph style applied to them. And we want to be able to say, hey, listen, InDesign, bring all those things in there. So if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see there is my CT chapter title. And I click on that. You'll notice a few options pop up down below we're going to discuss in a second. You see it's a heading. You can see, okay, great. And then this is essentially everything that's going to end up in my table of contents. All right. So if that makes all sense, you can say, okay, great. And I remember how I clicked on one or two or three of them there. These are all going to end up in the table of contents. If you want to add more, this is all of your styles. All your styles, if you want to add these and their content into the table of contents, that is how you do it. If you want to remove something from here, you just simply click on it and say, listen, that does not belong in the table of contents. It's getting a little bit crowded, so get rid of it. Now, let's just see what we can do here. When I click on this, I want you to notice a bunch of options now appear that are linked up between what I see here and what I'm going to see down there, right? So you can see how they're related to each other, right? So what's happening with this is that you will see that this is talking about this particular style, right? You can see, there it is. And how is this going to be actually styled? Okay, so I just want to, again, make it clear. This is just showing content. This is going to show formatting, the look and feel, all that stuff here. So there is a look and feel for TOC chapter title. So that's how this is going to look in the table of contents. This is the content. This is how it's going to look. All right, so you can say that a million times. I just hope everybody gets that. So now let's just see some other things. It's asking me, all right, that's going to be the style. Then do you want to have a page number after the entry? Do you want it before the entry, or no page number at all, right? That's totally up to you. We can change that very easily, but just for right now, I'm going to say, yes, I want a page number after the entry. All right, pretty cool. Then here is actually where we get into the character style. So it's like, well, I have a TOC page number, character style. So what do you want that to look like? So that comes back to not a paragraph style, but a character, because that's going to describe how the page number is going to look, just one page number. So of course you can change all that stuff here. All right. Now you'll see also, here's this option for between entry and number. What does that even mean? I don't understand that. So when I click on this little guy here, you'll see there's a lot of different options that are going to help me sort of display what's going to be between the page number, right, and the actual content itself. So sometimes you might want a tab, you might want all these little other kind of markers there, up to you. We're going to choose just simply, let me go ahead and get rid of this. And I'm just going to very simply choose a tab. Okay, great, fantastic. And if we go to this one here, you'll see I have the option to say no page number if I want to. You can see here, do you want a page number, or nah, I don't think so. I'll just say no page number for now. Okay, great. So I'm just going to kind of more or less sort of keep it clean for now. But let me just back this up for a second. And I want you to also notice that there's this option for the level. Okay, so if I click on this one here, level 1, click on this one, oh, level 4. Oh, that's why it's indented. Oh, I see. So you can change all that. This is level 2. So it's going to bring in the table of contents to look a certain way. Of course, you can customize all these things in terms of how it's indented in the paragraph style if you want to, if it doesn't come in how you want it to. Okay, so let's just check out some other things here. I'm going to remove this. Okay, and actually I'm going to say I don't want any page number. We're just going to keep it simple for right now so we can see what some of them are going to look like. All right, or let's just maybe just the first few. All right, just so we can kind of customize it and see what that's going to come in. Okay, now, and at the bottom, you're going to see there's the option here for creating PDF bookmarks. Oh, that's pretty cool. I want that because when I do make this into a PDF, I want people to actually click on it using the bookmarks menu. You'll see on the left-hand side within Acrobat, you'll be able to see people can just go ahead and click and go right to that part of the document. So it makes it clickable and interactive, right? Which is pretty cool, pretty slick. All right, so at this point, I'm more or less pretty happy with what I have here, right? Of course, I can always come back to this, so don't worry about it. And I'm going to click OK. Click OK, and it's going to tell me, hey, you might have some overset text. Do you want that content in there? I'm going to say yes. And now I'm ready to just now apply my table of contents just by simply clicking and dragging, just like if I was placing text. All right, let's bring that right down to here. That's wonderful. And then I'm going to do some more just by clicking on my little red plus sign, come up to here, and then click and drag, come down to the bottom there. Okay, and great. All right, now, did this do what I want it to do? Let's go ahead and take a look at this. All right, now, I would like to have these little leader lines here, and it's not necessarily doing exactly what I want it to do because I want to have little leader lines here. Notice how it came in. It's like, okay, there's these little tabs here, and these are actually like right align tabs. So I'm going to want to change that in a little bit and then customize each individual style to create leader lines. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let's go ahead. I'm going to just go into here so I know what style I'm working with here. Oh, good reminder there. Now I want to make little leader lines that are going to make dots go across and then also make this tab be more controlled. Because remember earlier I chose tab, tab, tab. Okay, so let's go ahead now and just simply double click on this to edit it. And I'm going to go over to here to tabs. And again, look at the one I'm working with here. And I'm going to set a tab for this. So it's going to have a little bit more control and space of where I want it to be, right? So I can just simply click and drag this over and then maybe even go even further, right to the end of it. Oops, do that one more time. Kind of lost it. All right, good enough. And you'll notice that there is a little dot in here that's left over from the last time I did it. But if you didn't have a dot there, you're gonna have no dot. But very easily, you just literally type in the period and amazing. Look what I've got there. That is so cool. Now I have total control over this, right? Like, ah, that's pretty amazing. And guess what? It's going to be on everything associated with these styles and anything that also is a style that's connected to this other style, right? Because it also might be sort of a parent-child type of thing here. All right, so pretty cool. So let me just turn all that off. And we'll see, all right, awesome. Okay, maybe I'd want to format this a little bit better, but it's pretty great, right? So if you ever need to, for whatever reason, make any changes to this, like if there's certain parts you don't want to see and you want to come back to this, you can very easily do that, right? So if you click on Layout again, and you go over to here to Table of Contents Styles, notice something pops up here, and it's showing me only one thing up on top, FMTOC. Wait, I know I saw that. That was at the top of the, okay, we'll come back to that in a second. And these are all the contents that's living inside there. But how do I get into where I was before? You just simply click on Edit. And now that takes me back to where I was before. Okay? And you'll see this is what it was actually referring to, is this FMTOC. That's the name of the whole style that's encompassing all these other things here. All right. Now you'll see here, it does this kind of weird thing sometimes when you do try to edit it, where it allows you to make some changes, but it also like resets the name of it. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right. Now, anything else I want to change here, I can absolutely do that, right? If there's certain things I just don't want, right, I can just go ahead and remove it and take it away right from here. I can make some of these changes to some of these other elements that, you know, maybe this, I want to be, instead of the caret and the Y, it's going to be a T. For instead of right aligned indent, it's going to be just a tab, or whatever it is, right? You have all these options here to be able to make those changes. All right, so I'm pretty much good to go. I'm not going to do changes here, but I want you to see how we can do that. And then you're simply just going to click OK. So let me just cancel this and cancel this. All right. Now, let's see what we can do when something does, in fact, change. Okay. Because many times things are going to change. Like, let's just say I remember cheese is going to come in at a different page number. Okay. We sometimes need to refresh our table of contents to make it so it automatically then gets linked up to the changes we made in the document itself. Okay, so just understand that, right? That's actually what we want to do many, many, many times. So let's see this in action. I'm going to go over here to page 5, and then, you know what? This is going to be on its own section here, like a few pages later. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to say insert, and I'm going to insert 2 pages. And this is going to be before page 5. I click OK. And now let's see where I remember cheese is. Oh, well, okay. Yeah. So things just changed there, didn't it? Okay, and that changed on a lot of things here. So what do I do now, and how do I get that to do what I want it to do in terms of resetting itself? I'm going to go back up to this layout menu and just simply choose Update Table of Contents. Now, I'm going to give you a little warning that, again, earlier I talked about how the option for the table of contents earlier, how it actually changed the words. I have found that it does kind of bug out sometimes. So it's actually going to change it back to contents. Okay, the words are going to change and all that. The page numbers are going to change. And if you are changing the words, those will of course change as well. But now let's just see what happens now. When I say update table of contents, it says, do you want to update it? Are you sure? Okay, and you also include overset text. Yes, I'm going to say yes. And now things get changed. I click OK. And then, oh yeah, I remember cheese is at 7. And okay. Oh, but wait a second. What about this here? Oh man, okay, that's kind of weird. All right, so I could actually go into here and make the changes myself if I wanted to, or you can go back to where we were earlier, go to layout, and then table of contents styles, edit, and then you can make your changes here accordingly, right? And then it'll update then after you do that. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes it can be a little bit buggy. All right, so this is incredibly valuable, really. So I highly, highly recommend you follow these processes. I highly recommend you really master styles at this point, right? So you can see how important they are, both for your paragraph styles and also your character styles, you can see how they get incorporated into it, because our character styles is what determines what these page numbers look like as well. Okay, so that's also another part of this. Okay, so you have access to this document. I recommend using this. Use any one of your own. Okay, and then what we're going to do in the next exercise separate from this, we're going to save this as a PDF, and we're going to see what that's going to look like in terms of the bookmarks, so you can see how beneficial that is. All right, so pause the video. Please practice this, have fun with it, and we'll see you in the next exercise. Now, in our last lesson, we created this amazing table of contents, and what we discussed was that InDesign also gives you the ability to work with bookmarks, right? To actually create bookmarks within the table of contents, right? So I did check that because I do want it to do that. So I just want you to I want to show you the options for when we do that, and also want you to see what it's going to look like when we finally actually do make bookmarks. You can see the value in that as well. And I'm going to show you in another video how we can actually do bookmarks in a slightly different way that's unrelated to table of contents. So very simply, I'm going to go over here to File and then Export. And it's going to ask me, okay, what do you want to call this? Okay, I'm just going to call this Creating Tables. I'm going to say Bookmarks, or Creating Table of Contents, Bookmarks. Okay, that's great. I'll know exactly where to find that. And then this is going to be a PDF. It's going to be print. I click on Save. And then this pops up. It's going to ask me a lot of different things here, right? In terms of like, how many pages that I want to export. How do I want to view it when it's finally exported it? Do you want to view the PDF after exporting it? Right? All these things here, right, that you probably already know about. But what I want to do, it's very important here, is to make sure that I include bookmarks, okay? Because for some of you, this may not actually be chosen, all right? So you want to go ahead and do that. Now, when I click on this, it's going to run a little scan through my document, right? Because you'll notice here I have 17 errors. I'm just going to ignore that just for right now, but you definitely, before you export it all, you always want to take a look at your pre-flight. But I think you probably already know that by now, being this nice advanced class that you're in. But always keep that in mind. So I'm going to click on Export. There was overset text, as I was warned, okay? No big deal for me right now. Click OK, any kind of like URL stuff, I'm good to go. All right, and now it's actually exported, okay? Not a whole lot of fanfare around this. What I'm gonna do is open up to my class folder here and go to that, and you will see living inside here is creating table of contents, bookmarks, and this is going to pop up, right? And I love this. This is great. Now, when I zoom out a little bit, I can see everything right there, and that's clickable. Oh my God, that's so cool. That's hyperlinks, right? Okay, that's pretty cool too. But now, is that a bookmark? I don't think so. What is a bookmark? Let's go over to here on the left-hand side. You'll see something that looks like an actual bookmark. I click on that, and then what? Oh my God, look what it just did for me. Way easier than having to like click on this and then go back and forth is this. I can go over here to Delicious Camembert. Yummy. Go to Brie. Go right back to the beginning if I want to. Oh my God, so cool to be able to just do that so quickly based off of what I did with my table of contents just a few minutes ago in InDesign. It then brought it into Acrobat as my PDF, all clickable and interactive. All right, so fantastic. Enjoy that. Practice that up. Pause the video. Make sure you're comfortable with exporting as PDFs as well, and make sure to check all your pre-flight properties and everything like that. Make sure you got no errors, and you're good to go. So enjoy, pause the video, practice the lesson, and we'll see you in the next exercise. This next exercise is going to be around cross-referencing. So what does that actually mean? Sometimes you're going to want to link to certain parts of your document from a different part of your document. So that is known as cross-referencing. So I might want to say, hey, listen, go over to here and see more information at bam, and then I can just click there and it's going to take me to like page 5 or a particular heading or something like that, right? So we can very, very easily do that. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and you're going to see how I have this option for see more info at, and I want to make that so it's going to automatically just become a link and tell the user, bam, they can go there, and they're also going to be able to click directly on there to do it. Now, how do I actually do this? I'm going to bring up a new panel here under Window, and I'm going to go over here to Type and Table. I'm going to say Cross References. Kind of buried in there, in my opinion. It should be someplace else, like under Interactive. So good thing to remember, this is where you're going to get to it. So I bring this up, and this is going to be blank up here. Okay, so because I have not created any cross references yet. Now, you'll also notice that I have my paragraph style panel also up here. Okay, as you can probably guess, this factors into things. So what I'm going to do, my plan at this point is I want to have them go from this section to chapter 2, which happens to be a title header paragraph style. So it's going to be very important for me to understand all my paragraph styles, how they're set up, because when I cross-reference, it's going to show me all of my individual paragraph styles and also which content is in that paragraph style. Probably better just to show you and then you practice it on your own. So I now have this just generic text here, and I'm going to go over to my cross-referencing, and I'm going to click on this little flyout menu there, and I'm going to say, very simply, Insert Cross-Reference. Click on that. Okay, that's great. And you'll notice here, my first choice here is, well, what am I doing? Am I linking to a paragraph? I guess they're talking about paragraph styles because they usually are, or a text anchor. And I'm going to do text anchors in the next video, so stay tuned. But we're just going to do paragraph for right now. And I'm in this particular document. That's great. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, what do I have? I have all my paragraph styles, okay? So pretty cool, just showing me right there. Now, it doesn't really help me get directly to chapter 2, does it? So when I scroll down and I'm going to find the paragraph style that I know is connected to chapter 2, you will see that this is the text that's connected to everything that paragraph styles sort of parents, right? So you can see there's all these things here that have this title header paragraph style. So very simply, I just choose chapter 2 because that's where I want people to go to. Now, if you move your dialog box over here, you can see it's going to say already, see more info at chapter 2 on page 8. That's amazing. How cool is that? It's already kind of set up, ready to go. Now, if you come down here a little more, you're going to see, well, what's the format you want to do? If I click on the drop down, you can see, well, do I want just the paragraph text? Okay, bam, see more info at chapter 2. Okay, or do I want the full paragraph and page number, just the page number? That's pretty cool, but I'm just going to say full paragraph and page number. And also note that I can click on this little guy here, create or edit cross-reference formats. I'll click on that, and you'll notice I get this kind of like funny looking kind of syntax code here. What I can do here is now remove these quotes if I don't want them. This is an example. Of course, you could do that however you like. Right? I'm going to click OK. And now you'll notice it's no longer there. Maybe you don't want that there. Again, totally up to you. All right. And then here is where you can actually make it when it becomes a PDF. Do you want this to be something, right? Do you want a triangle around there? Do you want to highlight it, right? Whatever you want to do. Do you want to outline it? You have lots of options to work with there to kind of really allow people to recognize that this in fact is clickable, right? It's actually clickable. So we want people to recognize that. So now I click OK. And I'm just going to put a period there. And when I make this into a PDF, this will be clickable and this will take me to chapter 2 on page 8. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to just say File, Export, and I'm just going to just do a little, this is going to be cross ref. That's where I'm saving it. And not going to hit save yet. Why? Because this is actually an interactive Adobe PDF. So I click on the drop down here and I need to choose interactive. Very important there because some of the functionality will not be saved. Okay, won't go there, just print because it is now interactive. So there's like fancy JavaScript and everything that's put in the back end of all this, making it work how we want it to work. So I'm going to click on save now, and then this point, I'm pretty much good to go, right? Hopefully at this point, you're comfortable on how you want to export things here, but I don't think I need to change anything here at all. So I'm going to click on export. Okay, there's overset text. Don't worry about that. I'm just going to say okay. All right, and fine. This is all about pre-flight stuff. All right, and now let's go to that section of where I just saw that. And chapter 1, and it tells me right there, see more info at chapter 2 on page 8. Pretty cool. So when I click on that now, that is so awesome. Okay, very, very cool. All right, now just hopefully you get that, you're cool with this, you understand that. Now what's so pretty darn cool about this also is that this is kind of a living organism, right? So if chapter 2 on page 8 would have suddenly become chapter 2 on page 9, etc., then we'll see like, oh, okay, then this is going to update automatically. So let's see that in action. So if I go, let me just zoom out a little bit so we can see everything here, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert a new page. So let's go over to here right before. There that is. Okay, so I'm going to insert. Let's just do 2 pages before page 8. So it's no longer going to be on page 8. I click OK. And now let's see. And you will notice here now it is on page 10. Okay, fantastic. So let's now go back up to where we were, back up to chapter 1. And let's see what this now says. Lo and behold, it now is updated to show it on page 10. Okay, so very, very cool, incredibly helpful. Make your documents nice and interactive, make it easier for your audience and your readers, and practice that. Please go ahead and pause the video, practice this, and remember that the cross-reference panel is kind of buried in there. That's going to be the first place that you're going to go. And also remember your paragraph styles, because those are inextricably linked up to what you're going to be doing if you're going to be linking up to an actual paragraph style. All right. And the next lesson, we're going to talk about text anchors. We just covered cross-referencing, working with paragraph and paragraph styles, where you can just link directly to paragraph style. But sometimes those things don't necessarily exist, or you don't necessarily want to link things up in that way, in that manner. So we can actually work with what's called a text anchor that we may want to anchor to. So therefore, it's going to be a little more kind of custom, a little more fluid, and just something that we can kind of just create and manage in a more sort of, manual way. So again, working with our cross-reference panel, we're going to have this up. You'll see that I have this little bit of text here called Our Mission and Vision. I want that to be a text anchor. So I'm going to simply just highlight it. I'm going to go over here to my little flyout menu here. Missed that. Click on that. I'm going to say New Hyperlink Destination. Okay. Thing is, we need to actually create the destination of where it's going to go to before we actually create the link of where it's coming from. Okay, so very important there. So I click on that, and you're going to see here, this pops right up and understands what's the type. It's a text anchor, right? It's none of these things here, but good to know that you can actually link to a page if you want to, or a URL. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But we're going to see here, it takes all the text that I have in there, and that's great. I click OK, and now that has now been created as a text anchor. Great. So now what? What do I do? So let's just say, for example, I'm up here and I want to just kind of have people just go directly to, our mission and vision, something like that. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and type something out here. Learn more about our mission here. Okay, so wonderful. It's good to go. And I highlight that. Just click on it and then go back over to here. I'm going to say insert cross-reference, just like we did in the last lesson. And instead of linking to a paragraph, I'm going to link to a text anchor. I click on that, and then guess what's just sitting there waiting for me? Because guess what? There's only one text anchor there. If you had lots of them there, which I hope you do in the future, you'll see, okay, great. There that is. Fantastic. So I click on that. Good to go. And you can see it says our mission and vision on page 4. Okay, cool. But you can see here are some options here. What do you want to show there? Okay, so full paragraph. Okay, great. So you can have everything there that you need. Very similar to what we just saw in the last exercise in terms of our formatting, but a lot more simple because it's very clear on what we want to work with there. Okay, so love that. That's good to go. And then I click OK. And now that is going to be clickable, linkable, all that stuff. When I finally, guess what? I go over here to File and I export it. Okay, and then I'll make this, call this text anchor. And again, I want to make sure that I am choosing PDF interactive because this is in fact interactive. So click Save. This is going to pop up. Okay, that's great. And then I have everything I need there. All right. And then View After Exporting, I want to do that. And I click Export. And then I might see some other errors here about some fonts or whatever. Okay, and now let's now see this in action. There it is. That is clickable. You can see, let me just shove this over a little bit more. Okay, there you can see it. It is clickable. Let's now learn about our mission and vision. Ah, there it is. How cool is that? Love that. All right, and the same thing goes for if this were to change, if you put this someplace else, it's then going to automatically update for you. All right, so keep all that good stuff in mind. All right, and then you'll just start to notice as you continue building out more cross-references, you'll actually see them there. All right, so if you ever want to do anything with it, you want to go to it, you want to see it there, okay, you can double click on it, you can go back into to make some edits to it, right? Wonderful. You do the same thing for both cross-references there. All right, so pause the video, practice this, and really start to think about and dream on what you can do, how you can use this, all right, in a number of different ways, being a little more kind of fluid and possibly more customized and personalized for you working with text anchors versus working with paragraph styles, right, which I always encourage you to do. It's going to be things maybe a little more systematic. All right, so we'll see you in the next video and have fun. We're now going to discuss how to work with hyperlinks in InDesign. Now, hyperlinks can come in a number of different formats. Hyperlinking to websites, hyperlinking to pages, other documents, to emails, all that good stuff. In other exercises, we have worked with cross-referencing as well. So it's kind of like hyperlinks. So you'll see how we can do this in really simple format. The hardest part really is remembering where to find all of our hyperlink options. Okay, so it's kind of buried. So if we go under Window, you're going to see here is this interactive panel, and we're going to go over here to hyperlinks. Click on that, and you'll see I have a number of hyperlinks here, right? Not using these right now, but how do we actually create a hyperlink? So let's just say, for example, I wanted to make this go to learnit.com. So just make sure to highlight the whole thing. I'm going to go over to my little flyout menu here. Click on that. And I'm going to say new hyperlink. And then look at that. It's already populated it. Might even remember from something I did in the past. Might even see some records of that, but you might have to actually type that in and maybe go a little more manual on there. Just type out the S. All right. And you'll see that's great. Good to go. Now, you will also notice that there are other options to link to. So wow, I can link to a file, to an email, to a page. We've talked about text anchors. Okay, so that's pretty neat. And you'll see here what is going to be my character style that's associated with. So you'll see that there usually is kind of a default like hyperlink, but you also might want to change it. So you're creating a hyperlink character style that you want it to look a particular way so it stands out as a hyperlink. All right, that makes sense to you, right? So you might want to have it like blue and underlined, something like that, so your audience knows that this is in fact a hyperlink. Then you also have different appearances. Okay, so do you want it to have a visible triangle around it? Do you want it to be highlighted? Okay, the color of it, whatever you want to do, totally up to you. But now this is pretty much good to go. I click OK, click away, and there it is. Right now, just so we're clear about the whole styles thing, let's go up to Window, Styles, and go to Character Styles. And you should see here is the hyperlink style there, right? So you can see now if I double click on this, I'll see here, okay, wait a second. You know what? This really should be a different color. Let's make that white. Oh yeah, that's a lot easier to read. Okay, fantastic. And I've just changed that in my character style. You'll see how styles are incredibly, incredibly important. Let's now go ahead and do one on an image. So again, we're going to do another kind of similar type of thing, but on an image this time. My hyperlinks panel is still open. Click on my little flyout menu there. New hyperlink. That's great. And then I'll just do the same one as before. There is Learn It. Okay, great. I'm good to go here. I click OK. And when I test that out, you will actually see it, in fact. All right, now let's do another one here, and let's do for an email. So I'm going to highlight that fictitious email address, go over here to my flyout. I'm going to say new hyperlink, and this time I'm going to say email. That pops right up. Okay, and that's great. Okay, you are amazing. All right, very good. That's going to make my day when I send that to myself. All right, and again, my character style is going to be hyperlink. Great, that works. I love that because it's going to be consistent with the last one I did for Learn It. Okay, remember that's why we use our styles. And then click OK. And should that be white? Yes, it should. Love that. That's amazing. All right, so I'm good to go with this, right? You'll see all the things that I can do, right? Maybe you want to experiment with some of the other ones, but you'll see what the process is, right? The fact that we actually have the ability to do that through the hyperlink panel. Now, I'm going to publish this in a second, but I do want you to notice that there is, in fact, a few things that I've created here that are showing up inside of my hyperlinks panel, including my email that I've created here. And you'll see that there's this group is the image that I did, right? That there's no name for it. It's called group. Okay, and then this is also just the text of Learn It. Okay, so this is just giving me a record of it. So if I don't want these linked anymore, I can very easily just click on here to delete it, or I can double click on it and say, oh, listen, you know what? That's actually not my email address. There was a mistake, or it's changed to Bob, or you want to change the subject line, whatever. You can very easily do that just by simply double clicking within hyperlinks. All right, now let's check it out. Let's test it out. So I'm going to go over here to File. I'm going to say Export. And it's going to come up here to this little dialog box. And I'm just going to call this Hyperlinks. That's great. And wait, I'm not ready to hit Save yet, because what do I got to do? I have to make sure that this is an interactive PDF. Okay, if you don't do that, you're not going to get the same type of functionality. So it's very important you choose interactive and not print, as you're going to see in some of these other options here. All right, so I'm going to click Save. All right, and then again, totally up to you, however you want to do all this stuff. How do you want to view it? Do you want to view it after exporting, which I do? All right, and I'm going to simply export. You might see a couple of error messages because notice I have some errors, so there might be some offset text stuff happening in my fonts. I'm going to ignore all that and wait for that to load up. And let's just bring this down a bit. And let's just see, do my hyperlinks exist? They kind of look they do. And do they work? Wow, look at that. I click on this. You might get a message saying like, hey, is this cool? Do you trust this? And look at that. Amazing. Love that. That worked. And then let's go over here to my email. And that should open up to your default email program. Okay, very cool. And then what about my image? That's right. Didn't I have an image be clickable? Click on that. Man, Learn It's getting a lot of traffic today. All right, so you can see how cool that is, how easy that is to implement, and also kind of how important it is to make things interactive, clickable, and do it in a nice, fluid, and efficient way. All right, so pause the video, practice that, have fun, and we'll see you in the next lesson. In this next lesson, we're going to learn how to create a form in InDesign. A form including all these text fields, including a drop-down menu, including this little radio button, including another button where you can actually have it submit and send as an email. So very, very cool. So these are all pretty much all set up, right? You can see here, these are individual frames that I can work with to create these little boxes. And then all of these things are going to come in from InDesign's Forms and Buttons panel. So let me go ahead and open this up and go to Window, Interactive, and you're going to see here is that panel, Buttons and Forms. And you'll see as I click on this, you'll see that this is a text field. This also a text field. Notice it's labeled as last name, first name. Department, what is that? Oh, that is a combo box. Okay, that's pretty neat. And you'll see down below is all the options that are going to end up in my combo box, because this is going to ultimately end up being a drop-down menu. And then you'll notice here is going to be a little radio button, and so is that. And then finally here, this is an actual button to submit something. Notice I have some little rollover effects here. And then when I submit it, it's going to go over here to this email address. It's that simple in terms of how we break it down, that like, oh, we just need to know to go to the Buttons and Forms panel to actually set these things up. So let's do this together. I'm going to open up to here my interactive form lesson. And you'll see here I have kind of like the workings of what needs to ultimately become my form. So the first thing I need to do for these first two at least is bring in a frame, okay? I know it seems kind of weird, not a text box in this case. We're just going to be bringing in a frame. I'm going to say rectangle frame, and then just click out here. Let's make that whatever you want it to be. And I'm going to give that a nice little slight fill color, maybe this kind of light blue. And then maybe I'm going to give it a tiny little bit of a stroke so people can know that in fact, that's a form field. Okay, make that nice and simple for people. And I'm just going to hold down the Alt key and the Shift key to clone that, make that a line there. Okay, that's great. And then do the same thing with this guy, Alt and Shift, bring that down. Fantastic. So this is not a form yet, okay, but it is going to be once I actually apply my buttons and form field types to it. So I click on that. Very simply, I have my button and forms panel up. I click on the drop down, and what do I want to make this? I want to make it into a text field. But guess what? There's a ton of other options that I could work with here, like making something into a button, into a radio button, right? Into a combo box, right? Check boxes, all this good stuff here. So let's now see what happens when I create a text field out of this. This has this nice little kind of funny shape around there to tell me that's what's happening. And I can label this as first name. That's going to be important later on, especially when you see this in in Acrobat programs. Okay, great. And you will see also that I have a number of other options down below that I can make it so. Is this printable? Yes. Is it required? Yes. Is this a password that you're asking for people? It'll turn it into like a little asterisk box, things like that. Maybe you're asking them a lot of questions. That's going to be a long answer. You're going to want to make this into multi-line. And I can also change this to be maybe a different font style. If I want to, I'll go to Calibri, and then maybe I'll make that 14. And do I need it to be bold? Maybe not, right? So I'll just say regular. Great. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing for this one. Text field. I'm going to make that Calibri. Make that. And regular. Okay, very good. And finally, let's make that into last name. Great. And did I make sure this is consistent? Yep, double check all that. Wonderful. Okay, so those are ready to go. Now let's check out my department. This is going to be a little different. This is going to be a combo box. Combo box, funny name, but that's just what they call it. I'm going to name this department, and I'm going to add on some list items. Let me just drag this up so you can see. My list items, I'm asking what department they're in. So I'm going to say IT, hit enter, go back up to here. I'll say HR, hit enter, and this is going to be sales, enter, marketing, enter, and I'll just say admin. Great. And again, let's change my font to be something consistent. Go to Calibri, make that 14, not bold. And one other option it allows me to do is to sort these to make it easier for people. So you'll notice here is the option to sort items. So it's going to be alphabetical. And you can see, oh, that's pretty neat. I got that all set up, ready to go. Okay. Now I got 2 text fields and I have a combo box. For this next one, I want to do these little radial buttons. So I'm going to show you a nice little tool that's going to help you with a lot of things, which is going to give you the ability to work with some of their library items. So if I click on this little flyout menu here, you're going to see there's this little sample button in Forms. I choose that. And then, wow, look at that. InDesign has like a bunch of GIFs ready for me. GIFs meaning G-I-F-T, not GIFs like G-I-F. They're like, oh, cool. This is like little cool things that I can work with very easily to now just do whatever, right? Buttons, radial buttons, right? Just like little check boxes, whatever you want to do, little arrows, totally up to you. I'm going to just simply choose this one here and drag it out. And you'll notice I now have these all ready to go for me to now apply on my own. So pretty cool because they're just like all set up. So let me close that out and let's just move this a little bit out of the way for now because I want to put in some type. So I'm just going to type out, aren't we amazing? Yes, we are. Okay. And let's format that accordingly. I make that a little bit bigger. Okay. And then let's clone that puppy. So hold down the Alt key, click and drag across. Gonna make that, oh no, that's not very nice, but can always be. All right, now, guess what? Let's move this guy over here. And let's move this guy over here. All right, and maybe we can actually align these and make sure that that's doing okay. Let's go to my properties panel. Make sure that that's aligned up on top. Great. And I don't need this one anymore, so I can just delete it. Great. Wonderful. Now, I want you to see when I click on this, this is a radio button R1. Click on this. This is also radio button R1. That is very important because these guys here are not going to be they are mutually exclusive, if you will, right? Meaning that when you click on one, you can't have the other one also. So you actually want them to be the same name. Kind of important deal there. All right. Now, last one we're going to work with here is the submit button. And how am I going to do that is just simply make that into a button. So I click on that and now it becomes a button. Pretty cool. And notice I have this option for actions. And I come way down to the bottom and I'll see I have this option to submit form. But I do want you to notice that if you are making buttons, you can have your button do any of these things here. Maybe you're not creating a form and you just want to make a button in a really cool, pretty way that says, hey, do this, do this, do this, do that. You can do it in a really, really neat fashion. So I'm going to say submit form, and you'll see that a few options happen here. Let me go ahead and bring this up. So I have submit form, and then I have here this submit form URL. Oh, that's right. Wait, it's asking me, well, where do you want the form submitted to? Well, I'm not submitting this to a website. I don't understand that. So what do I do? Normally websites, right, they start off with HTTPS or www. When you are doing email, you literally have to type out mail, M-A-I-L-T-O, colon, and then type in whatever you want, whoever you're sending it to. Okay, so you can see how I've done that. And that's ready to go. It's very important you have that mail too. Okay, now let's do a rollover option, because notice when I mouse over it, it's just going to be this normal, but when I roll over it, I want to give people kind of like the element of like, oh yeah, they just clicked on something. So now let's go ahead and just do this kind of grayish color. Great, so they're going to get that effect. Normal, rollover, normal, rollover. Okay, fantastic. I am so excited about this. So let's check this out. Let me go back to normal. Okay, and I can minimize this for right now. Let's try to do that. There we go. All right, now let's publish this guy. So I'm going to say File, and I'm going to export. And very important here, when you publish, it's going to say most likely a print document. We want to tell Adobe that this is in fact going to be interactive because there's buttons, there's drop downs, there's all kinds of good stuff here. Hence, we are interacting here. So I'm going to say interactive lesson, okay, form complete. So I know that, or you should call it whatever you want to call it because that's obvious, I know. But when somebody's going to mail it to you, they're going to mail it to you, and this is going to be the name of the document unless they rename it otherwise. All right, so that's kind of important. So I click on save. And this is going to pop up, right, our export to interactive PDF dialog box. And what do you want to do? What do you want to export? Okay, we're pretty much good here. You can change a lot of these parameters in terms of how you want things to be viewed. And I'm pretty much good to go. I do want to view after exporting. I click export. It's doing its thing. All right, and there it is. Love that. I click inside there. What? Is that a form? Oh, that's me. Oh my God, I just hit tab. Very cool. I'm going to click on this and then, oh man, that is so neat. Look at that. I just created a nice little drop-down menu. Very cool. Nice. And then, yes, we are amazing. Okay, notice I can't do both. All right, and then finally, ready to submit. Look how cool that is. Love that. And then, wait for it. Oh my God, that makes me so happy. This now comes in and there is my completed form ready to go for all my people. They don't have to do anything. It's all done, all set. So if you really want to practice this, please watch this over and over again. It's maybe a little different than what you've worked in the past. And again, you will see a bunch of features within that buttons and forms panel. So definitely take this and experiment and really have fun, but put it to some good use. All right, and we'll see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to create tables, and that's going to be coupled with the next lesson, which is going to be how to work with the data merge tool. So creating tables is pretty straightforward, up until a point, if you will. So if I want to create a table, very simply, I go over here to table, and you can see here is create table. It's going to ask me very simply, okay, well, how many rows and how many columns do you want? So just for right now, I'm just going to choose 4 and 4. Is there going to be a header row? Yes or no? And if that's the case, it's going to look a little bit different. It's going to give you the option for actually making to a header. I'm going to say no for right now. And also the same thing as a footer. It's going to format things in a little bit different way. You'll notice also there's some options here for making it into a table style. If you have that style already created, you can apply that. And if you don't, you can always create that later on. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to simply click and drag. And just like that, I now have my table all set up. Okay, wonderful, right? It's as easy as that. Now you'll see that within the table menu, I have a lot of options here, right? Here is obviously where I just was, and then table options, table setup, alternating rows, column strokes, alternating fills, all this kind of cool stuff here. Some options just for the cell. If you want to insert this and this and that, okay, that's great. Now you'll notice they're grayed out. Why are they grayed out? When you create a table, you're actually looking at two different elements at once. You're looking at the text box that wraps around this, or in this case, it's a frame, right? If you might think about it in the way that we know about images, but the reality is it's actually a text box. So you could have actually created a text box and then drew the table around it if you want to. But now watch what happens now when I click inside of the table. A few things are going to happen. Number one, when I go back to table, you'll see a lot of these options are no longer grayed out. Cool. That's great. So I can do all these things. We'll get to those in just a little bit. You'll also notice some other really cool features, which is going to be all of these things over here on my toolbar to be able to then manipulate them in a much easier way than having to go to this other menu. So you'll notice here's how many rows I have, how many columns I have. Oh, that's pretty neat. So let me just change that to more. And you'll notice that when I do that, because my text box is only so big, notice it still says 8. Well, that's weird. So what do I have to do? I have to go and make my frame, or my text box in this case, bigger in order to see them. So I click on that, and now you'll see, there they are. That's going to make you go nuts. It's like, I'm doing the right thing. But keep in mind that these are separate from each other. right? So if I do this, oops, not what I want. I get my little red thing there. Okay, great. And bam. Okay, that's what's going on here. So now, let me just review that. If you come inside of this table, double click, click and drag, then you're going to see these options here. So let me just bring that right back. It's asking me if I want to delete. Say yes. So go back down to 4, maybe even go to here. Then go back to my regular selection tool, then bring this back up here. All right, so it can be a little bit confusing, but it will help us move these things around as one big group. Okay, so just understanding how that works and also understanding how if you wanted to then make some changes accordingly, you can just highlight the whole table. And then if I wanted to just do this, I want to delete it. Yes, I do. Go over there. Okay, great. I can very, very easily do that. Now, as far as selecting and resizing and doing all this stuff, you can very easily do that too. So if I come over here and I click and drag, notice how that now selects the entire far right column and then drags that far right column. I'm going to undo. This time I'm going to hold down the Shift key while I do that. You'll notice what that does. That actually makes it equidistant for all of those things. First way was without the Shift key, it only did that column. Second way was with the Shift key and it actually made each individual column kind of equidistant. So you see, there's definitely a rhyme and reason to this. Okay, so I'm going to come back over to here and you'll notice now I highlight it and I have a lot of these options up on top that are going to be somewhat familiar to you, right? If I click on this right now, this is going to be my fill option. So if I want to make that top row blue, I can very, very easily do that. Okay, pretty nice. Again, let's highlight that again. You see that there, very cool. And if you want to put a stroke around your whole table, you can do the same thing there and you can decide what size you want it to be and just go from there. Okay, so hopefully pretty straightforward stuff. Now, some of you who've worked in tables before in other capacities, you might notice this guy as a potential familiarity, and that is what we call merging. So notice how that line just went away. I'll do that one more time, zooming in. Notice how there's a line here. I might want to merge this together to make it so it's just one cell going across. Okay, so I'm going to have that. I'm setting this up for my data merge later on. You'll see, okay, great, very good. That's going to be all set up, ready to go for me. Cool, love that. Now that's good to go. Now let's just take a look at some other options. I'm going to make this a little bit taller. It's going to come down here. And why am I doing that? So guess what? I can add on some more rows. So let's do that. And now we see it, okay, no problems there. Okay, love that. And you'll also notice that when I try to resize these, I'm going to come down to the bottom, and you're going to notice, oops, what did I forget to do? I forgot to hold down the Shift key. So now I can focus on the height of all of them coming out together. And then what can I do next? Highlight this, go over to here, and I'll add on some even more rows. Nice. Okay, good. Now I'm in a right place. Okay, love that. That's fantastic. I'm on my way. Now let's go to some more, maybe potentially more advanced things, more creative things that you might want to do with tables. So again, highlight everything. Go over to here, back to table, and you're going to see that these table options you might want to play around with, like alternating row strokes, alternating column strokes, alternating fills, headers and footers, etc. Let's just go to here to these alternating fills for right now. And you're going to see it's going to come up to a dialog box. So I can really understand kind of what's what. I like to have my preview option on because I need to know what in fact I'm doing. Okay. And you'll see here up on top for my table options, I have all of these things that I could really play around with. My general table setup, my row strokes, my column strokes, what we just saw. And then here's my fills and also header footer options. So I'm going to stick with my fills for right now. Go over to here to this alternating pattern where it says none. I'm going to say every other row. Nice little preview there. And you can see, okay, alternating first what rows. Okay, oh, notice how that makes it kind of alternate just between what are we doing there? Okay, that's a little bit kind of chaotic. So let's just make it every other row, right? That's pretty much all that means. So let's just now make this into a little different color so we can really see the difference. And the next color is going to be this craziness, right? And I'm going to skip the first row because I've already done something manually on there. And I'm pretty much good to go here. Okay, this is going to be hideous. Let me just warn you that. I click OK. And now, all right, not bad. See what I did there? So and then let me just make this so it might look like a real table. Hold down the Shift key, bring this up, and you can say, all right, not bad as I go through that. So let's just go ahead and highlight this once again, highlight all my table, come back to table again. Let's go back to my table options. I'm going to go over here to, again, alternating fills. And let's actually change that to something less crazy. I'm going to go to black, and let's go this time to black this way. But what's the difference between these two? One is the tint is going to be 20% here. The other one is the tint is 100%. So you'll want to play around with that just depending. So one's going to be kind of gray. Another one's going to be kind of jet black. And we'll see. All right. Not too bad, not too shabby. So you have all that kind of control. So let's now work with one last thing with tables so we can understand how all this works with working with our top little column here, okay, or top row, excuse me. Notice how I move my mouse to the far left to select that whole row. Why did I do that? Because I want to have a little bit more control over just this row. And I want to put a little border around it. Maybe I want to put something else in there, but I only want to select just this top one. So number one, I did that. Number two, I want you to notice this little area right here. This little area right here. So notice these little blue lines here. Watch what happens now when I just make this grow bigger, bigger, bigger. It's affecting the entire cell because all four of these lines are selected. I don't want that. I only want to do the top one. Okay, so I'm going to, for right now, go back to 0. And I'm going to say, hey, listen, InDesign, I only want you to now put a line, a thick line on the bottom. So I just unclick, unclick, unclick. And now watch what happens when I make that nice and thick. It only applies to the bottom part of the selected cell. And I'm going to hit W to be able to really see it. Great. On my way. And now, just for fun, let's make this a little bit taller so it really looks like something. Hit W again. All right, not too bad, not great, but this isn't about how to make a pretty table. This is how to make a table. All right, so really play around with that. And then the last thing we're going to do, just to make it so we're set up for our next exercise, is I'm going to kind of clear out some of these. Okay, so I'm going to keep this as a table to keep things nice and organized. So I'm going to come back into these left side, first row. I'm going to merge this together. So that's kind of nice. Get rid of that. All right. And then maybe I'm going to put like a little logo here. And then for this part, I'm just going to merge this and double click. And I'm going to merge this and hold down the Shift key. Great. So now I'm kind of set up for what's going to be happening next in my next lesson, where I'm going to bring in some different content across the board using data merge. All right, so stay tuned and we'll see you in the next lesson. And of course, practice, pause the video and practice. All right, welcome back. We just finished creating a table that was designed for this little badge that we're going to create for people. It's going to be sitting on their table. All right, so this was a table and I just put in some basic text here. I brought in an image, all that good stuff here. Now, we're going to bring in some data using our data merge tool. Maybe some of you used mail merge before. This is going to be data merge, where it's coming in from an external source that I have in a database like Excel or a text document, and I could just bring it in. So let's take a look at that document that I'm going to bring in. Oh my God, a lot of people are coming to this convention, and I need to have their names, right? And then their city, their state, and all that good stuff there. I just want to have that there inside of it, but I don't have to type them all out. Oh my God, that's going to take forever to do. So how do I bring it in? I'm going to use the data merge tool. So if I go over here to window and I come way down to utilities and I go way over here to the data merge option, this is going to pop up, basically giving me the lowdown of exactly what to do. It says first, choose the select data source from the panel menu, which is going to be up there. Then you want to drag the fields from the panel to frames on the page, or with an insertion point selected, click the data field you want to insert. Pretty cool. And then finally, choose create merge document from the panel menu. Okay, so let's just see what that's going to do. I'm going to follow their directions. I'm going to click on this little panel menu. I'm going to choose select data source. And then here is my directory names that I'm going to use. Comes right in just like that. Like, what are these things? First name, last name, address, exactly what we just saw here. It recognized that as all of my column names. So I'm just going to bring in people's names. Okay, so I'm going to do it right below here. I'm going to say first name, right? I double clicked on there, didn't need to do that. Okay, and then a space, and then last name, single click. All right, and then come down here. I could drag this if I want to, right? It can be a little bit clumsy when you do that, but notice it also worked. But sometimes it doesn't give you a very clear idea of where it's going to go. So just understand that. So I'm going to come over here to city and just simply click, go over to here, state. Good. I'm ready to go. Now, obviously, I'm not seeing what I want to see. This is all placeholders. So what do I need to do now? Didn't actually give me this hint earlier, did it? I'd like to actually do a preview to see what this is going to look like before I even commit to this. So simply just click on preview and then nice. That seems about right. I like that. Okay, very cool. Let's look at the other ones. Let's go here to here. Nice. Oh my God, that's everybody in my list all coming in. Oh my God, I got so many of them and that is so freaking cool. I love that. All right, now my next step is to merge everybody. So then I have a whole series of these in one big giant document. So you'll notice over here, it's this option to create merge document. So when I click on that, you will see it's going to start doing some things here. It's going to ask me, well, what do you want to merge? All records. Maybe for you, it's just going to be the first 10 or something like that. Totally up to you. You can change all these things. Records per document, single record. This option will generate pages containing one or more copies of the same record using your target document layout. This is pretty much good to go exactly as it's set up here. I don't really change too much here. And if there's anything missing, it's going to tell me. And then I simply just click OK. Okay, give me a little warning. No overset text was generated. Thank you very much. That's good to know because maybe I had some really long names. Now what? Let me scroll down and I will see, oh my God, it just generated how many pages? As many pages as I had people inside my database. How cool is that? Hopefully you're not getting seizures, but look at that. Amazing, 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 right? All the work that it just did for me. I am so grateful. All right, so you want to practice that. You can have access to this data set if you want to, and definitely use this. Practice, and you're going to be using this for maybe form letters. You might use it for business cards for people. You might use it for badges like this. So anytime you have a lot of people in a database, you can use the data merge tool to then bring it into one source and then save you lots and lots of time to be more efficient with how you execute. All right, so again, pause the video, practice this, have fun, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for watching, everyone, and congratulations on completing the Advanced InDesign class. We really covered a lot in this class. Let's review what was discussed. We started off by going over the benefits and uses of the CC libraries. We learned about how to utilize the amazing Adobe Stock portal. We then went quickly into how to manage layers, got pretty deep into working with master pages, nested styles, and a whole bunch of creative tools. We also learned about how to create and format table of contents, work with interactive documents, including cross-referencing, bookmarks, and hyperlinks. And finally, we covered how to create tables and then do a data merge from an external data source into that table. We really did cover a lot. Please remember to come back to review this video anytime and keep practicing on the courseware files. I wish you the best of luck, and I look forward to seeing you in the next class.